Here at the end of all things, it's Golden Truths and Umineko Podcast, a podcast about Umineko, Episode 8. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this one. It's Episode 8. It's the big one. I'm Jennifer Booher, host and witch of communication, joined as ever by Annabelle Barsky.
I can't believe it's really actually fucking over.
Caelum O'Leary Codair.
Hi.
Isabelle Valant.
Hey everybody, hi, I hope y'all are feeling good.
And guest starring as himself, Matthew Winter.
And for the final time, what the buck is up, every pony?
Boy, it's been a little bit, huh? A little dust, shake a little rust off, all those joints creaking a little bit as you get noodling close to your microphone.
Oh, only noodling close. Hey everybody, it's my microphone voice.
Yeah, this is a professional. I need everyone to have radio voices on, please.
No problem, Jennerino. We'll be doing our absolute best on this podcast for
Umineko.
This ain't your granddad's mystery.
Yeah, the Lambda burn fight has radioactive playing over it, please.
I know what you mean, but this very much is your granddad's mystery.
It might be, yeah. The generations of mystery all culminating in this, an episode of Umineko, I can say with confidence. Any quick beats, quick thoughts before we get into this enormous, longest ever summary here?
No, you should just read this entire summary so I can be in shock and awe that you did it first try with no editing.
Oh, I have something to say. How could I forget? Hi, if you only listen to this podcast, we streamed a good chunk of this game. We streamed the quiz, the puzzle quiz thing that Ange and Ava do, and we streamed us solving Berncastle's mystery. You can find that over on the Golden Truths YouTube page. If you haven't seen it already, I would recommend going and watching it. It's a fun time.
It was so much fun. You should definitely check it out.
It was legitimately extremely fun.
It was thrilling.
It's not at all required. You can just listen to this episode. I don't think we're going to be referring directly to anything that happened in there, because not a lot happened in there apart from us fucking around for 3 hours, 9 hours.
Yeah.
But you should go watch it, because it's a lot of fun, and hey, if there was ever a time to participate, well, it's right now. Okay. With that out of the way, thank you to all of our listeners, and let's begin the summary. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Oh, I should read all this. Twilight of the Golden Witch, released originally December 31st, 2010 at Comiket 79, and released officially worldwide November 17th, 2017 as a part of the full Answer Arcs release, invites us to a game that isn't sad or painful at all. 6-year-old Ange is on her way to Rakkenjima for the annual Ushiramiya Family Conference on October 4th, 1986. The cousins are playing, the adults are happy to see each other again, and the very alive Kinzo is full of warm, grandfatherly sentiment to all his beautiful grandchildren. The 18-year-old Ange calls bullshit, unwilling to accept the farce of a game Battler has made for her. Battler tells her that soon she will need to make a choice between staying and leaving, a choice between the past and the future, a choice between tricks and magic. On the game board, everybody settles in for a wonderful evening of Halloween treats and good feelings, and absolutely no murders or huge island-destroying bombs. Peace Ange, after enjoying a fun Professor Layton-esque quiz game with her whole family, falls asleep and is taken to the parlor to rest while the after-party gets underway. Battler brings all the magical characters from all across the series in for a huge party when Berncastle shows up to challenge Beatrice and Battler to one final mystery game. They take it in good fun, not realizing Berncastle has stolen Ange away onto her cruel game board, where she's recruited by Bern, Erica, and Ava Beatrice to their side, to wage war against fantasy and reveal the single truth of October 5th, 1986. Team Berncastle opens the floodgates onto Battler's game board, welcoming in the myriad of goats who begin to literally eat Rakkenjima with their cruel theories. There's this huge, stupid battle sequence that eventually settles out with Ange stealing the Ava of 1998's diary, in which the single truth of Rakkenjima is recorded. Ange opens the book with a key Battler gave her, and finally learns what really happened on October 4th and 5th, while we, the readers, are kept in the dark. Ange refuses to accept the single truth and tumbles through reality, leaving the now open book with Berncastle, whose master Featherine has called a meeting across both the world of witches and humans to reveal the truth of Rokkenjima to everyone, destroying the cat box of infinite possibility forever. Ange washes up in the Golden Land and apologizes to everyone for not accepting the magic of Battler's game board. She and Battler hatch a plan where they'll infiltrate Featherine's domain and steal back the Book of the Single Truth, with a little help from Lambda Delta, who's been here the whole time. Another big stupid battle sequence happens, this one even bigger and stupider. Erica assaults the Golden Land, the pieces and illusions fight back, Erica destroys the Golden Land, Berncastle and Lambda Delta fight, Featherine fights Lambda Delta and kills her, Battler punches Berncastle, and everything looks hopeless when the golden, endless Witch of Resurrection, Ange Beatrice, finally learns the true power of the Golden Truth, and totally beats Berncastle super hard and everybody resurrects and claps. With the true knowledge of magic in Ange's heart, Beatrice presents her final puzzle. Is this simple magic trick magic or a trick? Ange, and we, makes her choice and steps into the future. If it was a trick, Ange wakes up on the boat she took to Rokkenjima in episode 4. She deduces the truth of Amakusa's mission to secure a stable future for the Ushiramiya group, kills him and Captain Kawabata, and sets off with her Erica Tulpa, having become a true Witch of Truth. If it was magic, she wakes up on top of the hospital she jumped off of in episode 3. She walks back from the ledge, and leaves the entirety of the Ushiramiya group to President Okanoki and the rest of them. She sets off with Amakusa, ready to live her life as Ange Beatrice, the final witch of the Mariage Sorcière. Featherine refuses to open the Book of the Single Truth, leaving the real-world goats unsatisfied and dampening excitement around the Rokkenjima incident forever. Finally, we get a vision of October 6th, 1986. Beatrice and Battler find a motorboat at the end of a long tunnel, which they take to escape Rokkenjima. Before they can reach land, Beatrice jumps off the boat, sinking deep below the water. Battler swims after her, and in the final moment, they go together, to the bottom of the ocean, where the cat box sleeps forever. Byrne sews Lambda back together, and we get a fun Where Are They Now segment, where we learn that Gertrude is a pet owner, and Willard is a landlord. Byrne and Lambda promise to meet again when something else cries. Finally, and for actually finally, we visit Ange decades later, where she has become a successful fantasy novelist under the name Yukari Kotobuki. She's approached at an awards show to meet with the mysterious mystery novelist and Rokkenjima forger Hachijo Toya, who is actually two separate people. Ikuko Hachijo is the Featherine alike we already know, and with her is her disabled co-writer Toya, who is revealed to be the miraculously surviving Battler Ushiramiya. Toya reveals that he suffered brain damage after falling into the ocean on October 6, 1986, and though he has Battler's memories, he cannot think of them as his own. Ange accepts Toya as his own man and invites him to the Fukuin house, which she is the sole patron of, for a Halloween reception. Toya accepts, and upon visiting is greeted with an exact replica of the Ushiramiya mansion's Great Hall, complete with an exact copy of Beatrice's portrait. Battler is welcomed to the Golden Land by his family, all the magic characters, and Beatrice. He promises to never let go of her again. What did everybody think about Twilight of the Golden Witch, episode 8 of Umineko no Naku Koro Ni?
I didn't like it.
I'm gonna slip in here. I know I'm in the minority. I enjoyed it.
I experienced enjoyment at
I certainly read Umineko.
I
I spent so much of this episode very frustrated that this episode was happening.
Yes, absolutely. That is exactly what I would say. I think for me, in the final instance, it shakes out, but only very barely. Only very, very barely. I have quite a few problems with the content of this episode.
I would agree with that.
There's just enough in this episode that I really, really, really like and want to talk about that keeps me from saying that Umineko should have been 7 episodes long.
I think partially part of what I'm feeling is influenced by the fact that 7 felt like a great way to end it. And then we waited a year, and this felt like a fun epilogue to come back to.
This is the tea party.
Me reading the start of it, I was like, oh, it's so nice to see these characters again, and I'm in a good mood because I haven't been here in so long. But I don't know if I'd feel that way if I'd jumped straight into it, like we would have if we didn't take a year-long break.
Yeah, some of that's like intended too, because like when Umineko was first releasing, it was like every 6 months you get an episode. So you were meant to sit with these for a lot longer than the average person reading Umineko now is going to. So in a way, our taking a year between episodes strategy was just part of the intended reading experience.
We were just cashing in the, 4 years that we had saved up between, doing episode 1 and then 2 and then 3, more or less in a row. We were just cashing all of that in at once, the waiting time that was between all of those episodes into waiting between episode 7 and 8. See, if you understand the project...
The math shakes out perfectly.
This podcast took exactly as long as Umineko did to release.
Yeah, Featherin wrote us to do this.
And by the time we finish it, it'll take as long as Sukonia did to release.
So we're never finishing this.
God, don't say that. Yeah, I as the Witch of Communication, as the host of this podcast, I try to, and this is an intentional thing on my part, I try to take a posture of being on Umineko's side and try to say, well, here's what I think Umineko, the story is doing. Here's how I think it's operating in this moment. Even if I don't agree with it necessarily, here's what I think is going on and what I think is trying to be going on in any given moment. And I feel like this episode is really gonna strain that, because even though in the final moment I appreciate what this episode is going for and sometimes does, overall it really feels like a mess of an episode.
The most positive feeling I experienced was going to sleep frustrated about almost everything about this episode, and then waking up the next day and being like, damn, we finished Umineko. We read all of Umineko. There's side content, and there's fan games, and there's whatever Golden Fantasia, but there's sort of a satisfaction to that. There is genuinely a satisfaction to that, to knowing that the cat box is literally closed, and there's something resembling a happy ending for these characters, and you can take the bits that you like for the characters you like. It's that's a nice capstone to that. It was not the worst way this could have ended. I didn't leave feeling hurt. I was just annoyed.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the literal ending sequences, at least for me, do a lot of that heavy lifting. There's some shit in the middle of this episode that I think is just the worst Umineko has ever been. But you get to the part with the boat, and you get to Toya, which we will talk a whole lot about when we get to it. Angie saying goodbye to everyone as she walks through the door into the future. That stuff does work for me in the final instance.
I think it sticks, for the most part, sticks the landing. But, it's sort of falling down the staircase to get there.
Yeah, yes,
Does
exactly.
a little backflip at the end.
Willy Wonka shit.
Yeah, one of the big advantages Umineko has about being so much about, authorship and writing is that I never really felt like Umineko was written bad. Even though I didn't like this episode, I felt like I wanted to reach through the screen and kill Battler because he was writing it.
That's the trick of the author function, right? If you just make the author, if you extract the author out far enough, and you have, say, oh, this isn't written by me, Ryukishi. I mean, it is, but inside of the story, it's being written by someone else, who's being written by someone else. You can. I think that does literally have the function of making it a little bit more bearable, because it feels a little more contained in that way, for better or worse.
I felt like it was really the fact that episode 8 was one of the weakest episodes, and is also one that Battler really personally labored over, ends up reading a lot into Battler's characterization and personality in a way that may not have existed if episode 8 was good.
Yeah, I wonder. I'll sure bring that up later. I will say, just in terms of immediate gut hits, the very opening part of this episode, after the opening sequence, where it's everybody's on the boat and they're having fun and battlers screaming fall, fall, and like all of that is happening, except Ange is also there. That fucking got me really hard, especially the first time I was reading this. Like that fucking really got me. Did anyone else have like that kind of reaction to any of this like opening part before like the turn where Ange starts calling bullshit on everything?
Before Kinzo shows up, yes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Battler's game board until Kinzo showed up. So that opening bit was like awesome, especially since, like, as Izzy said, like we had a really long break between readings episode 7 and 8, so it was, you know, like seeing my guys after a long vacation.
Yeah, it was just nice to see everyone again. It was nice to see them react, like the ways that I've come to enjoy watching them interact. Maria was there.
Yeah,
Maria was there.
Yeah,
We've had a few dark episodes where Maria barely even showed up.
She does a bunch in this.
Yeah, due to this being Ange's episode and Ange's relationship with Maria, Maria is around quite a bit. And I also feel like they don't draw on that as much as they could.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff from Ange in episode 4 feels more like kind of background radiation. Or I wish a little bit more of it was kind of like pulled to the front, like they were, you know, this is Ange's episode. This is Ange's episode, and just like why is Ange like going through this like emo moment where she's like talking to fucking Erica and Ava Beatrice? I get it. I know why they're doing that, and it's a final episode, and you bring all the characters back, and Ange has those things, those relationships to those characters or canon. But you know, I feel like. Where's Mammon?
Where's her fucking wife?
Yeah,
Where
Where
was
the fuck is
Mammon
Mammon?
the whole time? She gets one shot with Mammon at the end. It's Mammon and Sakutaro is there to leave enough room for Jesus between them. We all get to go into the future. Like, get the fuck out of here, little lion boy. The whole concept of a game where you get like contemporary Ange, who is like such a crucial part of a lot of the progression and like the character arcs, you know, from like episode 3 onward, basically up until now. Like that like 6-year-old Ange is so important. So to finally have the chance to see her seems very cool. And then they use that to, I don't know, to retcon a bunch of shit, to have the adults lie mostly about a bunch of shit that they never actually felt, except for Natsui. And for like the bad characters to like be apologetic, and for the witches to like show off around her. Like, she doesn't even like fight really during this whole thing. Like, everyone else is fighting. She fights Beatrice for 1 second. I thought that was sick as fuck. But like, yeah, starting here and then into the rest of the thing, it's just a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, we will hear us say the words wasted opportunity. Probably more. I mean, there are probably some people out there who really like episode 8. I understand it is one of the less popular episodes. I will say personally, having reread it for the first time just now, it's probably my least favorite episode too. Caelum, did you say you liked this episode until Kinzo showed up?
Matt also said that.
Okay, both of you said that. Then you didn't like this episode for very long, because he shows up pretty much immediately after the thing that I was talking about, screaming about necktie pins.
Happy Halloween!
Well, what was wrong with Kinzo? Let me ask you that. Why did he remove your enjoyment?
Where to start? What's wrong with Kinzo?
This is the big question, right?
Anytime Kinzo is on screen, you should be asking, why is Kinzo here?
That is actually very well said. I know you were saying that half as a joke, but like, if Kinzo is
serious.
there with the immediate thought of, this guy should be dead, why is he here? This story's trying to tell me something about this. And it is, but the thing it's trying to tell me is very hard to swallow after the last episode about, hey, Kinzo has done one of the worst things a single human being could do on this planet.
Literally, yeah. That is like the immediate predecessor to this moment, is like, even in the damn tea party, you know, in the tea party of episode 7, you like learn that, I mean, one, Kinzo's fucking horrible sin and his horrible sin again, and all of this shit, and they're like, yeah, let's kill the Italians and take their gold, and just like a horrible fucking person. And then to come smash cut into this episode where Kinzo is the silly grandpa is really hard, which like maybe the most generously I could think about it is perhaps slightly intentional, in the sense of you're supposed to feel alienated from this in the way that Ange is.
I think it's definitely intentional. I just think it sucks very bad. Like, it sets the tone of Battler's entire game board, which is apologia for how fucked up the adults are. Like, he's either completely inventing shit or, like, just really, really, really exaggerating the positive traits with the intention of having Angie having positive memories of her family. And it's like, it's so too little too late, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is like, if he built up to Kinzo, maybe, but oh man, it is not long into the episode, like we said, where Kinzo pops in and all you can think of is he's the worst. And it's like, know your fucking audience, Battler.
There's a line much later in the book that's relevant to this like immediate part, where she's moved on and is doing other stuff, but she's reflecting on this quiz time and this like fun party that Battler prepares for her with fun necktie pin Kinzo, where she's like, oh, you know, I remember now, like, I was only 6 back then. I was such an awful, grumpy little child, and Grandpa was always so nice, and, you know, the cousins and the aunts and uncles were always saying nice things. And it's like, that's just demonstrably untrue. Like, that just didn't happen. Like, we literally have multiple game boards of Kinzo saying, like, Maria's a bastard child, these other kids have failed me, my children suck, and I'm gonna die. You know, like, this is like
how
the,
can
like,
you truly say it didn't happen?
Yeah, those are also all game boards, you know. None of those are the single truth either.
But those are all, you know, he's not, in some of those game boards, Rose is nice, and some of those game boards, Rose is evil, you know, same about Ava, same about Natsuhi, you know, it sort of goes both ways for every other character. It's not like that for Kinzo. He's a terror in every single one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think as you're saying, Matt, maybe if Kinzo's, like, introduction or, like, this version of him was delayed after Angie had like smaller versions of this sort of revelation of like, oh, you know, maybe I was a grumpy kid and I was thinking about, you know, the way Maria treated me all wrong. And now that I'm like 18, I can see that. Or like now that I'm seeing it in this light, I can see that. I mean, obviously, like, Angie needs to end this section of the book fucking disillusioned and jumping over to the bad guy side. But, you know, like, that's not to say, like, oh, Battler's game plan was wrong, but, like, if you're going to do that with Kinzo, it feels like you really need to know, you need to be honest about the fucking guy that Kinzo is and was, and that we've learned in episode 7 specifically, which is taken to be mostly the real-ass truth. Like, you need to take that into account, and this just feels like it doesn't. This just feels like it goes full bore into...
Again, this isn't meant to be reality. It's meant to be a Nicey's game board that Battler made for his 6-year-old sister.
Are you guys familiar with the terms Watsonian and Doyleist interpretations of the text?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so Watsonian and Doyleist interpretations of the text are related to Sherlock Holmes, where there's situations where Arthur Conan Doyle is writing the story and mentions, the old pain that went through Watson's right leg flared up again. Then writing another story says, the old pain that went through Watson's left leg flared up. The Doyleist interpretation, and what is the truth of the matter, the red truth, is that Arthur Conan Doyle forgot which leg he had a pain on, and he wrote the wrong one. Whereas the Watsonian explanation is he has a pain on both legs that are triggered by different things, or there's another explanation in universe for why this happens. It's a concept that I once heard from Slow Beef in a video 1,000 years ago that he referred to as plot spackle, which makes me laugh really hard. And what I can think of here as a Watsonian explanation for this hard-hitting Kinzo off the top of the shelf here is Battler was not in that room where Angie learned of the horrible things Kinzo had done.
The thing is that the horrible things Kinzo have done are, like, vital to the truth of Beatrice, and if we are going in with the belief that Battler has reached the truth of Beatrice, then he has to know these things.
Well, he's only kind of reached the truth, right? He was not there for all of episode 7. He is dumber than a piece of shit.
You could say he's only kind of reached the truth, but it's been established by other people's text that he's completely reached the truth.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, Battler has literally become the game master of the game board. I think he, like, you know, through magic bullshit or whatever, like, he understands everything.
Yeah. And, like, going for the Watsonian, I mean, I have a different interpretation of Watsonian versus Doyleist, apparently. But, like, this in-text, again, Battler knows these things and is, like, being honestly probably pretty responsible and not telling them to a 6-year-old. He's trying to make things...
But that's not true.
Sound better than they are.
But that's actively not true. And I'm thinking about it, this Watsonian shit does not hold water here, because straight up there's like, haha, you're my aunt and my grandmother, or some shit like that. And I'm like, oh my god, you can't do that. You can't just say that.
Yeah, for real. ultimately, I think magic ends up in a different place, but like when you are in the thick of this part of the novel, it can feel really strongly, and I think it does still carry some of this weight, that magic is about forgiveness to the point of ignorance, about being able to recapitulate no matter what, and the power of being able to forgive someone for their sins, for their sake and for your sake, and to be able to like establish good things inside of bad situations.
There's another bit as well about like what is a witch, and I think Erica and Angie are talking about it later. And what they agree on is something along the lines of people who haven't gone through this shit would not become witches because you need to.
When you say gone through this shit, you mean just like having like traumatic things happen to them generally? Something
that you need to put up a wall at mentally one way or another.
Right. That to become a witch is to like ascend past humanity, right? It's kind of the way it's used in the text. I feel like Watsonian versus Doyleist is a really good way to think about modes of interpreting Umineko, because Umineko is built in such a way that there are multiple different layers of Watsons for you to point to, no matter what. You know, you can point at, in episode 1, you could point at, like, Beatrice doing something. You can point at the characters doing something. Maybe episode 2 is better. You can point at the characters, and they're, you know, you can work inside of that text. Or you can work inside of, Beatrice is making these characters do this thing, which is this Watsonian thing masquerading as Doyleism. Because Beatrice isn't real, because Beatrice is also a character in that. You know, like, Beatrice is making these pieces move this way, how could you do this to my family, etc., etc. And you can go another layer up from that and say, oh, well, this was all Sayo's doing, because Sayo, you know, wrote this message bottle and tossed it into the sea, or Toya wrote this forgery, and all of this stuff, and you can come up with all these explanations for things. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've even like leaned on some of that stuff in previous podcasts, because I like find it fun, and 2, because like Umineko really asks you to think in that way. It asks you to think about the worlds inside of the worlds, and I think that is useful, and I think it can also obscure when something is just out and out like, hey, look, the final decision on every single one of these pages is Mr. Ryukishi07, right? He's the one with the pen to the paper. So I don't know. I think that's a fascinating like output of Umineko. Like, that's a thing that the text affords and guides you towards thinking that you can either play into or resist. And I think it's worthwhile to think about resisting it where we can.
Yeah, like, I think a valid interpretation, which I personally hate, but a valid interpretation is that the reason why Kinzo sucks so bad in all the other episodes is because that it was written by either Sayo, who has a very good reason to hate this guy, or written by Hachijo in an attempt to emulate Sayo's voice. Mm-hmm. This sucks, by the way.
Yeah,
but like, it is a perfectly valid way of reading the text.
Yeah, it is, totally. And I could say that. I would, you know, in my Witch of Communication, here's what I think the text is doing. Like, yeah, like, none of the text so far would have covered, well, Kinzo is, like, you know, maybe Kinzo did actually have some warmth to him. You know, he probably was not just this horrible guy all of the time. So you could assume that Battler is either reminding Angie of something that's true, or just trying to show her something that could be true about Kinzo, and it could be true about her whole family. And, you know, as long as this cat box exists, as long as the possibility of happiness exists, isn't it nice to think about happiness? Like, I do think that that's, like, ultimately Battler's kind of bigger game here. But it's really difficult to accept that when we've seen Kinzo be the guy that he is for 7 episodes.
Sorry, something just hit me that's going to drive me insane unless I say it. So, obviously, it's like an established thing that pieces on a game board can never act outside of...
Yes.
So, but that's not true in this episode. Fundamentally, because Shannon, Cannon, and Beatrice are all in the same room all the time. So that's fully flying within the truth of the game board, though.
Ryukishi mentions that in the interview about episode 8, where there's like they break the rules a little bit on like in terms of game piece stuff, just barely to make this happen.
So yeah, I did not get a chance to read the interview, unfortunately.
No, that's completely okay. I should just say, I've mentioned them before, the Shinso Kaimei Dokuhan, which are these kind of like, after the release of the episode, these big volumes that have like concept art and character sketches and these interviews that will happen between Keiya, Keyyaa, and Ryukishi07. This one also includes the music artist Dai, where they'll just talk about like the production of the episode and what was going on in it and what they were going for and just like a whole bunch of different stuff. Really fascinating stuff. This one has a very full translation on the 7th expansion fandom wiki, which I will link to in the show notes. I would highly encourage everyone to go look through this because it's fascinating.
But where I'm coming with this is that because the three of them are present in the same room, something that has been very much established to not be possible on other game boards, it also leads to other pieces can act fully fucking out of character.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna communicate here a little bit. I'm gonna slip into my cheer for the text thing. I think that the rule that pieces can only act in ways that they could, I think you have to flip that around in your mind. This is a way that the piece of Kinzo is acting, which means that it must be something that is inside of Kinzo's capacity, you know? Think about that as a way that allows for a multiplicity of truths rather than constrains them to one particular mode of being.
I understand the point of view where we just came right off the heels of learning about like the horrible, horrible truth about Kinzo. But like, I feel like part of the intention is trying to show Kinzo as like a nuanced, real individual who like has this horrible, dark past, but still is able to like be kind to his grandchildren from time to time or things like that. And like all of those things I think are in Kinzo's confines and his ability,
exactly.
Like you said. And I agree, it feels gross in a story context to go straight from the end of episode 7 to starting with him yelling Happy Halloween. I think that's a correct interpretation, that it like feels bad story-wise, but I think they are succeeding in showing that Kinzo and all of the other people here are people with nuance and people who this whole time we've been reading from the perspective of these are characters in a murder mystery, and now Battler's trying to show all of them in the context of these are real people that were part of your life.
Umineko, and this is like one of the things that I love about Umineko, and one of the things that I think really constrains it in this episode, is that I see Umineko as a series that, on the whole, is about the multiplicity of truths and the way that multiple truths can exist at once and can't exist at once, and about recapitulation and forgiveness and reintegration, and about
it's that same
the joy
shit.
of what if you could forgive the worst person in your life and go on with your own life, you know?
It's
and
obsessed with that idea.
It is obsessed
what the
with
last
it, yeah.
4 books have fucking been about, and I'm sick of it. It's an idea I just like it is consistent within itself, and in terms of the storytelling that it's doing, it's not doing something unheard of or disgusting here, but like I just fundamentally don't agree with it. And I think there are so many genuinely interesting and like deeply and thoughtfully approached themes in the extent of this series, and this is what Ryukishi keeps coming back to, is actually it could all be okay, and you could just make it nice in your mind, and you could just always take the high road.
Yeah, and
okay.
Everything being okay means specifically you accepting that the Ushiramiya family is always right behind you and is always cheering for you. Being okay does not mean, hey, fuck the Ushiramiya family, fuck all of this, I'm my own person, I'm not bound by the horrible things. It's about, we will fucking talk about this for the entire rest of the episode. There's plenty more to talk about here, but suffice to say, yeah, that is the central tension, I think, of episode 8, that it makes it so fucking challenging, even as I appreciate what it's going for in some places. Let's see.
And I also want to go back, sorry.
Yeah, please.
To the thing about how, and I think maybe I'm just forgetting something, but Shannon and Kanan and Beatrice not being allowed to exist in the same place at the same time. Didn't that happen during like the competition shit?
Yeah, the competitions, and even, I mean, in episode 2, but like Shannon and Kanan and Beatrice can all be together at the same time when...
But not around the detective.
Yeah, and there's no detective in this episode, so I guess that could be your excuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Erica is the detective in kind of an abstract way, but she is not like... She never declares herself to be the detective of this game board. Like you said, Anna, they are slightly stretching the rules just a little bit in order to make this happen. you can Watson your way out of all of this
you can
stuff.
also argue that none of this actually technically takes place on a game board. Like, they create game boards, which part of these episodes take place on, but part of it takes place in the universe in which the game boards exist. But, like, that is also a fucking weakness of this episode. Like, I don't even want to get into that stupid shit.
The complication of the cosmology of Umineko.
Literally.
For those keeping count at home, we are one bullet point into our outline.
Oh my god!
No, it's good. We're covering good ground. Did everyone feel like we talked about, like, retconning and stuff? I feel like we covered that pretty well right now.
Yeah, the same applies to other characters. There's shit Ava says right away, which we get. I guess we could maybe get more into Ava later, maybe not. It's fucking. She is extremely sympathetic in this episode. You take that as you will. You know, she's always loved Ange, and she always wanted her to be sweet. And she wrote the single truth of Umineko, which is what really happened. That's just a bunch of dumb stuff I said. That's not even true, she says. And then Ava Beatrice, who's a killer sicko, is like, I'll always support you, Ange. I exist here to support you. Just all sorts of weird shit. Other characters do it too.
It's very strange because, like, from what we saw of Angie's, like, material reality in episode 4, not true.
Not true.
Very much not true. Like, I will fully, buy and agree with that Ange was, like, kind of petulant and sucked as a kid, but, like, also, like, her parents died. Like, she's really going through it right now.
Remember when Ava Beatrice just walked out of the fucking story?
I mean, fucking Ava. Bringing Ava Beatrice back is the real, like, the most fandom that this whole thing is like, oh fuck, we have to fucking work Ava Beatrice in here.
No, fuck you. The most fandom thing in this episode is when Rosa gets to wail on some goats with a gun again.
Yeah, okay.
True.
Suffice to say, everything we just said about Kinzo applies broadly to, like, the situation of the Ushiromiya family generally. It applies to a whole bunch of different people in it.
Very, very quickly, Kinzo and Genji's backstory thing, that was extra weird.
Yeah, hang on. We'll get to the quiz backstories in just a second. I'll say I buy the stuff with Ava just a little bit more because Ava is repentant of it, and I believe that Ange was probably, like, and as much as, like, a child can have an end of the bargain in that, she was probably a shit and would not, respond to Ava no matter if Ava was trying to do something nice. And the sin that Ava committed was not all of the shit that Kinzo did. Ava's sin is being a capitalist and, like, treating her adoptive daughter like shit. It is not stealing a bunch of fascist gold, doing the shit that he did with the second Beatrice, and then doing that shit in metaphor again with our Beatrice. I think that for me at least, there's a magnitudinal difference there.
Not as bad as Kinzo, but that is a very low bar.
Not a terribly important.
At least she's better than Kinzo.
But Mom, she's better than Kinzo.
Yeah, Ange probably was not a great child to raise, but also, like, it feels really blamey to, like, a lot of the stuff, like, when we Memoirs of a Lambda Delta, kind of, when we read that, like, pretty much covered. Was it that one?
Which one?
The one where one of the bonus stories we read,
Byrne meets her.
Yeah, where Byrne meets her and tells her that if she rejects Eva as her mother, then eventually her real mother will come back.
That's what is that? The Valentines?
That might have been a Valentine's. The Witch's Tanabata Isn't So Sweet, maybe? That one?
Maybe that's it. Yeah, the Tanabata.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that we read in the bonus episode, and I think that was directly referenced in this episode, honestly.
Yeah.
And it feels like a weird tonal shift, because it does feel like it's really blaming, like, a literal 6-year-old for not coping.
She's not a 6-year-old for. I mean,
but she is a 6-year-old when her parents die.
They literally say she was a petulant little 6-year-old child.
Yeah, it's
like,
so
word
strange.
For word. Like, hello, she was not
6-year-old.
Because episode 4 is so much about, like, the sympathy, like, being sympathetic to Maria for her abuse and, like, her coping mechanisms, but fuck Ange, I guess.
No, I don't.
It's really strange.
And Maria's older.
I think that Umineko is. I said this in episode 4, but just to bring this forward a little bit, I think Umineko really believes in the agency of all of its characters, maybe even to a fault. So, like, even, Ange was like that at 6, but, was she also like that at 15 or 16? I mean, by that point, like, the relationship has probably deteriorated so much. And, like, I feel like as you grow older, maybe you don't necessarily forgive your parents for the fucking awful things you did, but like
I haven't.
I literally haven't spoken to my parents in 8 years.
this is maybe a different. This is the fucking again. This is, I think, why a lot of us chafe against this episode. But episode 8 is a story about how good it is that with time, you know, you could go back to your mom who you hated when you were a teen and make up with her. You know, that's
nice.
what this episode is about. Yeah, totally. Do we want to talk about Battler? Battler's changed from episode 1 to episode 8.
So this was my bullet point here, but I'd like to hear other people's thoughts before I jump in.
This is a different guy. This Battler.
Yeah, this is a very different Battler.
Specifically, episode 8 Battler, even episode 6 Battler, but especially episode 8 Battler has like turned into like the ultimate paternalist older brother, you know, like suddenly he knows everything. He doesn't apologize at all in this episode for like, hey, yeah, Angie, maybe I did like kind of take like a shitty, maybe I had some bad ideas about how to show this to you. Like, I feel like that would have been very Battler to like acknowledge that, oh, I was going about this the wrong way. I was like trying to beat you down with this, or I was like trying to lead you around with this in a stupid way. Like,
it's so fucking funny when Erica goes, you know, you could have used a little tact.
I know.
Yeah, I like these characters and I like their through lines and I like how similar they feel. And I feel like Battler in a negative way and Beatrice in a negative but also kind of positive way is a different fucking character from every other episode.
Legitimately do not like this Battler. I think he's a less interesting character than he was in previous episodes.
I think part of it comes from, and I didn't read the whole interview, but I read some of it, is that they were talking about how they needed to change who the protagonist was.
Yes.
And so Angie is now the protagonist and Battler now has to become a piece. And so I guess they wanted to, part of it had to be like deciding to change his characterization a bit to fit more as like a single character NPC than as like the player insert.
But he's like a flatter character now.
Yeah, I mean, like, he can be not the player insert, but I feel like that kind of groping around and trying to figure out what to do, and even in episode 6, he's like the game master, and he's like cool and in his way, but he's also like doing kind of a shitty job with Beatrice, right? And like he and Beatrice need to like they work together to come to an understanding about each other. That feels more like Battler than this guy who is like basically the enlightened one who like doesn't have anything like an arc. I mean, I don't need him to like learn how to be a good ghost brother or whatever, but like I wish that there was anything going on there.
So much. They would have actually redeemed episode 8 if at one point, any point in this Battler goes, maybe this isn't such a good idea.
I know, like just
like straight
literally
up, like admit any kind of fault, because like I think that the episode was totally capable of doing this because of how much Angie pushes against the game board, right? Like it felt
totally
so aware of how fucked up and saccharine and like flattening every character it is. And then it doesn't do anything with it.
The way it refuses to give Angie any fucking ground at this. Like, what happens is she learns the single truth, and she comes back to the fucking Golden Land, and she says, I'm wrong, and all of the characters around her say, I know. Like, what
I know
the
you're
fuck?
wrong. You're
what
the
fuck
wrongest
are we
you've ever
doing?
been.
No
yeah,
agency.
it's so strange.
The satisfaction of episode 4, where she executes absolute agency in a way no one else has in any of the games up to that point, where she is like understanding the story through a different lens than everyone else, and she gets to like exercise her rights and ideas over it. And then to this game, where the conclusion of her arc is she cries for Battler, and she lives her whole life waiting for Battler, and she demands Battler. We're getting into that.
I can't
more
wait
later,
till
too,
we
but
get
this
to
is just-
that because I really want to talk about it.
It's just ridiculous. It starts here with Battler, and in this like whole game too, like he's not even making his silly boobies jokes anymore. Like he's just not the same guy. They said in the interview.
Yeah, speaking of groping around.
Yeah, well, you know, Ryukishi and them were like, yeah, you know, it's easy to write a silly Beatrice being fumbling and stupid. And I'm like, what? Where? Like, why did they make Beatrice into like the clown car character when Battler's like right there? What's the difference? So just a classic misogyny moment. They had to slip one in after being good about it for so long, maybe.
Yeah, after making Beatrice, I mean, that's just as ever. There'll be plenty of time to talk about Beatrice. Golden Truths, there'll be plenty of time to talk about Beatrice. For now, so Battler takes Angie, and he walks her through this, and... he walks her through this, and Kinzo is giving Beatrice the gold back. Everyone knows who Beatrice is. Beatrice is around and is like an ultra I love being a wife character ever.
This worked on me.
Yeah, for real.
I was literally like so fucking I was like, I just skimmed through my notes just now. I started complaining about this episode in chapter 1.
Oh yeah.
And I immediately stopped complaining when Beatrice was on screen.
Yeah, for real. That's how it feels. Even this Beatrice. When Beatrice isn't on screen, people should be asking, "Where's Beatrice?"
That's how I felt.
And I am. I am asking that.
There are times where we will actually have to discuss that, yes.
Kinzo is like making everything right. He recognizes that he's probably doesn't have very long left. He's going to disperse his fortune early, so everybody's out of their money problems. Everyone's so nice and happy. We don't dwell a lot on George, Shannon, Jessica Cannon. They're kind of there, but their whole story isn't really happening. Yeah, they sure did. And then it eventually gets to the point where it's time for the annual Halloween party that happens at the Ishiromea family conference every single year that everybody loves.
He did not fucking say that.
And in order to choose who's going to be the king of this party, they have cakes, and in one slice of cake is an almond. And the person who finds the one almond in that cake gets to be the king or the princess or whatever. I say it's so fucking funny that the translation is king and princess specifically.
The two genders, yeah.
Yeah, for real. You guys figure this one out?
It's
got a pretty simple solution.
It's because Eva and Ange are the only ones that survived.
Well, okay, yeah, and a meta reason, sure. You could say that, but I mean,
I still didn't. Which piece was it in? Was I supposed to go through all 15 of those?
No, I pretty much figured that it was a matter of Battler going, yeah, I need to smush these two together to try to mend that relationship. It's gonna go great.
I don't know if this game board has any mystery level to it at all, but I like thinking about mysteries, so I'm going to say it does. Here's my solution for the cake puzzle. Every single piece has an almond in it, and Battler and everyone just agreed to shut up about it so that Angie would find the almond and think that she's the only one who gets it. Remember, someone fed Angie that information ahead of time. She goes up to Battler and is like, look, I know a secret.
So why did Ava say anything?
Because Ava, she's their mom and she's a ghost and blah, 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 all that stuff. I think that's why Godo was so flustered when Ava announced that she was, quote unquote, also a winner, because he made only one dessert for one person for it to be the winner. And so when everyone just went along with Ava being the thing, Godo's like, come on, my special creme de brew fuck.
What the fuck, lady?
It's a soccer tort.
It's a birthday cake shaped like Angie's head, and you're saying you won? What's wrong with you?
She wants to cut it, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know if mystery applies to that specific one, but it has a pretty simple and I think fun little solution.
I think you're right, because that lines up with,
so I'll integrate it into my worldview.
It lines up with a lot of like what we've seen about what magic is, which is people agreeing to effectively a story. Like there was that side story you had us read between episode 4 and episode 5 where everyone agreed to pretend it was still White Day or something for Beatrice.
Exactly. That was Battler and Beatrice. Yeah, they cast the spell or whatever.
They need to change the name of that holiday.
Today's White Boy Day.
Yeah, White Boy Wednesday comes once a year in Japan.
And then Gap shows up and is like, what are you fucking talking about? It's the day after White Day, bitch.
Yeah, for real. So that happens, and then it's quiz time. We streamed the quiz. I don't know if we need to dwell too long on the quiz. It was fun. I had fun doing that with all of you. I'm glad I could
We have to talk about
Kinzo and Genji because we missed that one.
Fucking, Angie walks up and looks at him and goes, so are you two...
And the answer isn't no!
And Genji looks at Kinzo and Kinzo shrugs.
They look at each other and they go, so it was a long time ago in Taiwan when we met. It was a beautiful night.
Is it more or less fucked up that, they started out as, the same status and then wound up this way? Is that worse or better?
I think that's worse.
I mean, again, I said this in the chat when I was reading it, but, I feel like I would need a lot more information about the history of Imperial Japan and its territories to, understand the fucking dynamics of, this Japanese guy and this Taiwanese guy got along really well, and the Taiwanese guy loved the Japanese guy so much he agreed to be his forever butler.
Yeah, it sounds kind of bad, right?
Forever
I don't know about that.
You weren't listening to Nanjo, actually. They're both Japanese guys. Come on, pay attention.
Well, of course,
yeah, because
obviously.
he was born in occupied Taiwan, so
He was
clearly
born
he's
in
actually
occupied
Japanese.
Taiwan, so obviously he's Japanese. So like, what a progressive stance to say that he's obviously Japanese. He is your forever butler, though.
It's not only that they were the same status, it was that, like, Genji's family was going to lose that status, and he decided to become Kinzo's forever butler instead.
I know, yes.
Which
it's not
ditching his wife and children.
Completely insane
it's
and
fucking crazy.
deeply understated. What the fuck?
to kind of lay this out for people, just in case they haven't read the episode, which you should go read it, but if you haven't. So these quizzes come in, like, sets. So you'll do, like, Genji, Nanjo, and Kumasala, say. You'll get them as a set of 3 puzzles, and you do them back to back. And then if you get all of them right, you get those characters having a little vignette and, like, talking about something a little frank or serious or wondering about Ange and stuff like that. It kind of moves out of the, like, hyper happy world and becomes a little more somber. We actually missed one of these. Was Genji?
It was Genji's.
It was Genji and Kenzo.
We would have gone insane about this if we caught it on
I can't believe
stream.
that's the one we fucking missed
I know,
on the stream.
we needed that on stream.
Oh,
Fuck us.
There were
my
2
God.
of them we needed to hit. One was Genji and Kinzo. The other was Natsuhi for the other most insane thing that happens.
What is that?
That's pretty...
What is that?
You know what? I do feel comfortable calling you mom, Natsuhi.
Then she
It's
does.
cool.
And she
It's cool.
does. Oh, are we doing this now? Are we ready?
Their one relationship moment ever involved a whole cliff.
Oh, come on. And everything else. Oh, yeah, though, Eva walking around with Angie's hand in hers is not uncomfortable at all. The whole episode.
Anna believes in the magic of recapitulation only when it's Nazi. Exclusively when it's Nazi.
Listen, it's fucking... She lives her whole life apologizing. Even after Beatrice apologizes her, jeez Louise. Even after Beatrice forgives her, she's like, no, I still hate myself forever, and this is gonna haunt me forever. And Beatrice is like, well, that's
I think Ava might say something like that too in that episode about Ange.
she doesn't.
Yeah, and Beatrice said, good, you should always hate yourself for that, otherwise I will be upset with you.
All right.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have here in our notes, I have Anna Natsuhi hour, so take the other 59 minutes if you like.
I'm not taking 59 minutes. Whatever. I think Natsuhi is a character shown from the beginning in all of her appearances on the game board to be someone who genuinely puts herself out there for her family members, puts herself at risk in order to protect family members, in order to protect the children especially, which no other parent in this whole book is doing at any point. They're just sort of fucking around with kids at every turn. Additionally, you could argue that everyone, including all of the kids, including Ange, when she was 6 years old, she was a real bitch, I heard. They're all the other characters also have done wrong things, right? But, like, many of them are genuinely forgiven for those because they're living well, and some of them aren't. Natsuhi, it's like, it's bad what she did, but everyone has also done something bad, and they're all forgiven in different ways, so it's sort of just which one you pick, I guess. I don't know. This, I could have had a more salient, point for point defense of this, but I think in my heart, genuinely, it is Beatrice coming to her directly to say that, which this is understood to be the most real quote-unquote Beatrice has ever been, right? I don't know if any of us buys that, but that's certainly how they're portraying that.
It's one of the few moments in this book where you get a sense that Beatrice is actually, like, some version, some reincarnation, whatever, of the culprit of the Rakenjima murders, and not just, like, funny game board Beatrice, who's Battler's wife and is technically connected to all that stuff, but let's not talk about it.
Plus, I think that's great because, after, it's not mine to talk about, but the other ones, Hideyoshi's is nothing. I mean, Kyrie and Rudolph don't even, they talk about their kid in regards to their relationship, but Kyrie has nothing to say about her kids after that, right? Like, Natsuhi literally cares about these kids, literally cares about these people, and, like, sacrifices everything within herself to support these people. She does not take from them or like use them in her life after that moment where she makes a mistake. She lives her life in penance of that mistake.
Yes, that is the difference between her and Kinzo.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
I think you've made that point very well all over the
yeah,
this
it's more than once. Yeah,
but it is also really fucking funny.
I will now move one bullet point down and to look at the Caelum Kyrie hour. Caelum, did you have something? You said you wanted to talk about
Yes.
the births specifically.
Yeah, so the scene between Kyrie and Rudolph in this quiz thing is insane. Just because it finally explains the whole Battler's mother is not Usumu thing that he blew up over because he forgot that last names are passed patrilineally. And I think that if you are reading this text one for one and not reading into it, the baby swap is the stupidest shit in this entire novel, bar none. Because it is, well, first of all, I said reading the text 1-to-1, which I'm not doing. But if you are reading it straight, then it's just like, okay, Rudolph had enough money to pay off an entire hospital, and Kyrie like never realized that she actually gave birth to a live baby. Like, I haven't had birth, but I do believe you are typically conscious when you do so.
Unfortunately, I can speak to this and say
that has to have a birth.
Hold on, I have seen a birth of a child. I am the only parent in my generation on this whole planet, to be quite honest. And yeah, straight up by the end of it, my wife had an unusually long labor, and in between pushes, she fully passed out in like 150%. But even then, she woke up, and it was like, look, your human baby, we're going to immediately slap it on your chest because that's really good for you. That's not something they figured out in the 1980s, or like, we gotta go put this in a machine and zoom in on it, probably. I don't know. There's a lot of points where it's like, that's a child making a scream. That's good, I think.
Yeah, like I feel like it is really contrived that you could successfully push out a baby and then not know the baby was alive. So Kyrie knew the Battler is her son this whole time.
Okay, here we go.
And remember that whole shit about 18 years of jealousy?
Yeah, all that multiplication.
Yeah, all the multiplication shit. It wasn't that Sumo and Rudolph were married. It was that she wanted Rudolph to own up to the fact that Battler is her kid.
Then why did she hate Battler?
Because she has problems. She hates Ange too.
I know she hates Ange too. You don't have to tell me.
She's got problems.
I never said she was good.
Hot new Umineko theories live on this podcast right now.
So I wrote down in my notes, I called it Rudolph double dick baby swap.
Fair enough.
There's a chance that Sumo was never pregnant or miscarried earlier and hid it, and they just conspired to steal Kyrie's kid. So in this case, this gives Sumo a lot more characterization because she's at least a little bit complicit in the whole thing. And because they had money and power and willing to buy off an entire fucking hospital, it just makes a lot more timeline sense than like Rudolph just busted a nut in two people at the same time and they went into labor at the exact same time and then they baby swapped each other. That's insane.
I also think that would make sense because we saw like I don't remember the character's name, but the other person from Asuma's family who came to try and kill Angie, and they were just constantly talking how like they were both just kind of fucked up.
Yeah, like I think that Asuma was in on it. I think that she probably didn't have a kid or had miscarried at some point, but Rudolph realized that Kyrie is really fucking toxic and did not want to be in a marriage with her. So
here we go. Finally, down to the real truth of it, Rudolph apologia.
Yeah. But the thing is that when Asumo dies, he marries Kyrie anyway.
Well, here's the thing, though. What if, let's continue going through the layers of Watsons here. What if it was a situation of Asumu was never pregnant and just told Rudolph, I'm super pregnant, because he told her, oh my god, Kyrie is pregnant. She's like, good news, so am I. She lies.
Yeah, let's say Asumu baby trapped him, but didn't actually have a baby.
What was happening in the hospital?
Lies.
Lies. Everyone was lying.
Why does Rudolph tell her any of this?
What the fuck? Hold on.
I'm not attempting to root off a redemption arc.
Oh,
'cause
so
I don't...
we have an hour for whatever the fuck this has become.
You sacrificed your other 59
yeah, you could have kept
minutes.
talking about Nazi, but
Damn it.
I will spend an hour on this.
No.
Nazi's the single best parent on that island. We're not arguing this.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
Like,
man.
It's like, this actually gives a sumo a personality, or any kind of story presence at all, other than had Battler dies anyway. Like, I think that's just a much more interesting storyline than Asumu and Kyrie gave birth at the same time.
I think the crazy miracleness of it, that's like in play with like the Witch of Miracles and the Witch of Certainty and everything, you know? It's like playing with
Are you
those,
saying
like...
that Berngastel blessed this birth?
No, I don't know. It's just the themes in this book, like the like meta stuff going on. There's miracles, there's certainty, and there's plots, and there's resurrection, and there's creation. You know, these are like the things that are going on, and that like plays into all of it. This thing, even the adults, you know, shit happens to them.
Lambda Delta says with certainty that you'll never give birth.
Caelum, I say this with all the love in my heart. I am just agog that this is the one that you latched on to. Of all the fucking, like, weird things, like, edge cases you could squeeze in and squeeze out, it's the double dick baby swap that, like, has consumed your mind.
It bothers me.
What about this?
It's so stupid.
What if Kyrie did give birth to a child because they put Battler back into her?
Like, what is the narrative reason behind Battler's mom actually being Kyrie, right? Like, I can't, like, is there a reason why this is in the narrative?
Here's my biggest zoomed out, like, writer-ass answer for this. It is that in episode 1, Ryukishi had Rudolph say, "I'm worried that I'm going to be killed." And he had to come up with something to pay that off. I don't know if he had that at that moment or if that came, like, to him through the course of episodes 2 through 4, but that is why it's in the narrative, and that's why it's here in episode 8.
Also
because
provides depth
That's like
in a negative
insane
way
to me
Kyrie.
because someone in the visual novel database suggested that was a hint that Kyrie and Rudolph had some kind of plan ahead of time, where they knew what there was going to happen on Rokujima in 1986. And if you just do that and then have Rudolph say, "I might die tonight," that makes perfect sense. You don't need to do the stupid baby swap shit.
hang on, there's something. Okay, so here's a quote from this Dokuhan interview that we've been referring to. The context is they've been talking about, like, different theories or different ideas people have had, and how Ryukishi had put stuff into the books to, like, kind of mislead people, or specifically to give rise to, like, fan theories that were sort of off the mark, right? Kea asks, "Are there any other misleading tracks you had?" Ryukishi says, "I had intended to create a traditional suspicious character for this kind of closed circle story, such as the head of the family has a lot of illegitimate children, and have them connect with the young servants Shannon and Cannon. But perhaps it's a bit outdated because people didn't suspect it that much. I also prepared a number of other devices that would have made people suspicious of the story, but they didn't really take them. The one that got the most bites was Rudolph's 'I'll be killed.'"
I think that was literally why they made the Burns game funny solution be like Battler family or whatever, because it was such a popular stupid fan theory. So they put it in there, like, here you go.
No, hold on. The White Day thing has the answer to this shit as well, which is Rudolph's a dramatic bitch. That's it.
That's always episode 1 has the answer to that.
No, but, like, it's a specific point about, like, damn, I took the bullet for you, I'm so dramatic and shit, when that wasn't the case of what happened and everything, and that's just, and it just takes a second to go, Rudolph's over dramatic and will do whatever he can to look cool.
It's also very funny to me to think that "I Might Die Tonight" is specifically in the context of Rudolph comes clean about Battler being Kyrie's, like, son, and just immediately being like, "Yeah, my wife will murder me over this."
You think if you had a partner who you were going to tell this to, that they wouldn't?
If it was Kyrie?
If it was Kyrie, the only reason that doesn't happen in episode 8 is because it's the Happy's world.
We don't see we literally do not see what happens after that. There's a strong possibility Rudolph gets fucking killed in the background, and Battler has to go like revive his ass again.
That's
using
funny. Yeah, he has to
magic.
take the piece back out.
I
That's
love
funny.
the idea that he says that apropos of just of nothing, because he's coming clean because of that, and then just coincidentally murdering starts happening.
Yeah, isn't that's the whole thing?
It's so
Ryukishi's
funny.
whole MO is that coincidences happen, right? That is all of Higurashi. The answer to Higurashi is just a set of insane fucking coincidences.
What the fuck am I gonna read?
Don't worry about it.
This is such a strange time to tell your family this. Is it, I'm surrounded by other people who might help me not be killed? Is that why you're telling them now?
Sometimes it's just the
Why?
right time. Again, it's
Oh,
coincidences.
Kyrie has access to a gun. I should tell her about her secret son.
Well, Rudolph, to his very, very, very slim credit, is like, I want you to stop saying these aren't your kids, you know? Please stop saying that. He as shit a dad as he is, he like in his suck way cares about his kids. He fails at showing them.
I wouldn't
but
even say he's a particularly bad dad. I think he just sucks.
This is the first fucking conference where Battler has come back, right? After 6 years of breaking. So this is the first time that Rudolph has been confronted with Battler and Kyrie. Like,
What?
yeah, I think it makes total sense. It makes total
No,
sense. Yes,
That's not true.
that is literally the
No,
truth.
he's been living with them.
No,
Battler?
he's been living with the grandparents.
It's the fucking
The
conference,
grandparents
right? It's-
died. He didn't die from the grandparents' house and get on the fucking
Yes,
boat.
Battler moved back in with them and has been living with them for a while. But I'm saying, like, it's the family conference. Like, things are heightened, right? Like, emotions are heightened. Everyone's on edge. Like, maybe this is just the thing that finally, like, tips.
And Rudolph's like, it'd make this way funnier.
I'm just saying, maybe he, to his slim credit, feels a little fucking castigated in that moment, you know?
Yeah. Like, honestly, I think Rudolph is on the higher end of parents in the Shiramiya family.
Yes,
Like,
unfortunately.
him
Oh, yeah.
and, like, honestly, I think he might be second to Natsuhi, and that's it. But, like, that bar is on the fucking floor.
No. It'd be Hideyoshi would be second.
No, because Hideyoshi's married to Eva.
Hideyoshi ain't shit.
Hideyoshi is, like, the
He
fun
actually
dad
literally teaches you to be
who-
as fake as possible.
Yeah, he's, like, the fun dad who refuses to actually, like, parent at all.
I can't imagine a situation where Hideyoshi would hurt George. I can imagine many situations where every other parent besides Natsuhi and possibly Rudolph would hurt their kids.
Yeah, I don't think Rudolph would. That's Kyrie's bag.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the tier list, is which ones would do a violence unto their children, and then we rank them from there.
And
Literally.
Rosa literally does. She does in the
Yeah,
real
she
world,
sure
even
do.
before
Yeah,
the
we
conference.
see
She
all
wins.
that.
Well, if we base it off of violence, Krause can't do anything.
Krause is a boxer.
Do you think he's really a boxer?
I think he is actually a
I think that
boxer.
might be his only skill. That's why he's
Yeah.
built like a fucking brick shithouse. He's like huge and has.
You
stock
dare say
shoulders.
this about the man who took on Goat Kun and won? Jessica boxes too. Okay. I'm glad
This
we
was
solved.
Krause's best episode, though.
I'm glad we solved Rudolph.
This was why.
Because he did the fucking your shoes are untied thing like a shitty big brother and then decked a baby. It was
he
great.
did punch Erica. That's right. That's fucking great.
God. Okay. So this all happens. Angie does the quiz. She gets taken into the parlor because she falls asleepies. And then fucking Battler says, "Bring it in, guys." And everybody shows up for a huge party. This part's like fun, you know. It's like big and silly in the way that the rest of the episode is, but it's like you get these little vignettes where like Hideyoshi is talking to Satan and like,
And fucking Lion and Beatrice
Yeah.
meet.
Leon and Beatrice meet, and then, like, Leon introduces, like, Leon is introduced, and then Beatrice just makes the funniest face fucking imaginable as she connects two and two together. Actually, the peak of this episode. It's just Beatrice
I
doing
was a
like an
femboy?
ellipses.
Oh no.
I think her exact words are, "You couldn't be,"
Yeah.
or something like that.
It's so fucking funny. Sorry.
I'll say that moment specifically, to me, another piece of wasted potential. Like, can you imagine if, like, this was a book that felt like it could actually confront the culprit at all and, like, have Beatrice and Leon, like, talk to each other in a somewhat serious manner about anything? But it
Yeah.
can't.
I would read a
because,
million
like,
words of that alone.
Because this whole fucking episode is in reaction. I mean, I don't have the full history here, but my understanding, and I hope I'm not repeating bad history here. My understanding is that this episode is created largely in reaction to the reaction to episode 7. Where people fucking hated it. They hated that they didn't get a real answer. Oh yeah, people despised episode 7.
It's like the best episode.
Contemporary Japanese otaku response. People fucking hate it. Like posting pictures of their broken CDs hated. Like they hated episode 7. I hope that makes you understand what's going on with the goats in this one.
Oh, okay.
Very, very end of Ava of Ryukishi.
Yeah, for real. Very end of Ava, very, like, back part of Homestuck.
No, Ava survives.
Okay.
Ava dies eventually.
Anyways,
So do we all, Caelum.
I feel pretty bummed out, and I'll continue to talk about this, that, like, Beatrice is the fucking heart of this series. She is literally, even at the end of fucking episode 8, the beating fucking heart of this series.
Literally.
And to have an entire episode where she is just evacuated from it. There's nothing about, like, outside of, like, the boat scene. There's nothing about, like, Beatrice's feelings, her opinions on what she did. Does she feel contrite? How does this Beatrice relate to the Beatrice who died? You know, Beatrice talks to fucking Leon, and it's just like, whoa. And then they don't fucking get into it. Beatrice is just around Kinzo, and they're just, like, cool with each other. This is something I understand that the manga fixes, or at least maybe it's not fair to say fixes. Maybe it is fair. But something the manga changes pretty significantly.
Spackles.
I gotta read the Ep 8 manga, apparently.
I was looking through Tumblr just quickly to find some, quicks to post, and I was like, holy fuck, this looks amazing. I want to read this book and not the thing I just read.
Yeah, I think that including Beatrice in a more serious way as the culprit, I think would have gone, and, like, have her fucking talk to Ange and have, like, remember when Ange was mad at Beatrice? And that doesn't fucking matter at all now? Like, she's just like...
They have a moment where they're gonna have a fucking, like, intellectual fight, like, genuinely, like, the ultra culprit and, like, the ultra detective, like, the least real person and the most real person. And they just cut away. They start fighting, and then they cut away, and then Beatrice dies, and then that's it.
The ultra culprit and the ultra detective both fall the fuck apart because the game refuses to let them be that, because we end up having it be that Battler is the ultimate detective and the ultimate culprit was Ryukishi's egg.
I feel like the single thing you could do to make this better is make Beatrice actually a fucking character in this story, and she's I like her. When she shows up, I clap, and I like when she's, like, pouty, and, like, I like her as a comedy character. It's kind of a fun turn for her.
She's so moe in this episode.
It is very, very cute, but I'm left so wanting for so much, especially after we, like, know about her in episode 7. Like,
you don't get tired of her.
Like, I don't need her to face the camera and say, I am Sayo and I did this, blah, blah, blah. But, like, to take that stuff as a given now and, like, move forward with it in a serious way and have her, like, have some frank conversations with some characters somewhere. It's just fucking, that is my, more than any, like, theme or anything, that is maybe my biggest personal letdown around this episode. It's just, I fucking love Beatrice. She's what everything in Umineko is about, and she is just fully evacuated from this episode. Anyways, they take Ange to the parlor. He goes to sleep. Everybody comes in. You get some fun vignettes where, like, the Ushiramiyas and the servant characters are talking to the magic characters. That's cute. And then Berncastle shows up, and she's like, hey, Battler and Beatrice, I challenge you to one final mystery. And they're like, sure. But of course, it has turned out that Bern has already abducted Ange into her game board.
Berncastle shows up and gives me the false hope that this episode is going to be good.
For real. This is kind of the fulfillment of that thing from the end of episode 7. You know, it was the dueling game boards, the happiest, the nicest game that doesn't hurt at all, and the cruelest evil game that will not have a happy ending. This is kind of where that comes in. Kind of sucks that this is... I love getting to solve this puzzle. It's a lot of fun. But I feel like there is such a space for the idea of, like, dueling game boards that they could have played with, like, you know, can you imagine, like, oh, it's the happy world, and suddenly, like, the real... you know, the cruelty of the Ushiramiya family starts to creep back in or something, and someone fucking shoots someone. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of... To have this be how the dueling game boards idea shows up is is another one of episode 8's letdowns for me.
Yeah, like, imagine even if we did keep it exactly the same, what if the Peace Battler, Kyrie, and Rudolph from there didn't just fucking vanish for no reason? What if they hung around a bit?
Yeah, you could even do, I mean, like, I would genuinely have, I'm about to say this, I guess I don't actually know if I think this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I would have preferred, like, some kind of stupid multiverse thing where they, like, jump between, like, random, like, crazy game boards where, like, it's Hideyoshi culprit or something like that, or here's where they all just jumped into the ocean for no reason. Like, I don't know.
Like, referencing the exact same things they've done in the past, and that's, you know, when we talk about the battles, when we talk about the missions and the tea parties and everything, you know, it's just like that. It's just the same things we've seen before.
I would have loved to see that, and they could have tied it into the whole internet thing as well. It's like, oh, we're going through the sea of fragments.
Yeah, exactly. We have to swim through all of the forgeries and all these evil forgeries, and here's one where fucking Battler and Renove are making out. And like there's so much you could do with that, and maybe that would get too fandom. I think that's a distinct possibility.
I would prefer that stupid ass fan service over what we actually got.
Yeah, for real, which is like bad fan service.
Yeah, but I feel like it is one of the big letdowns of episode 8 is Bernkastel promising that this is the worst, meanest game ever to Ange, and it's just Battler's the culprit. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Like, oh, what if your family did it? Like, whatever.
She already saw that! Calm down!
As I said earlier, we did stream this. Please go check it out. This was a lot of fun. We managed to somehow solve it in one stream, which it was a fucking miracle.
I think the funniest thing is that my first thought was like, okay, well, Bernkastel wrote this, so Battler is the culprit, and I was fucking right. I was literally right.
This is a fucking series that's about the heart, and that is understanding the heart of, like, Bernkastel and what she's trying to do to Ange, right?
Yeah,
like,
she's just trying to pick the meanest...
I think that's a completely valid way to arrive at the truth.
My first thought was, what if Bernkastel makes it so all the cousins did it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what if it was George and Shannon and Battler and Maria somehow?
George will never accomplish anything with his life.
So true.
Anyway, I'm going to take us on a small side tour here for something I brought up in episode 7, actually, which is Sayo, when writing episodes 1 and 2, and by extension Feathering for 3 and 4, and so on and so on.
Toya for 3, 4, 5, and 6 now, we know.
Fair point. They didn't know who Battler was after he was 12 years old. So who they write in those stories is Battler age 12, aged up to 18, basically. And it's really fascinating seeing that, because this, the fake game that Bernkastel does goes off that same thing that I said, that we don't know who Battler is. And the idea of him being the culprit is entirely possible. What happened to him over those 6 years? Who did he grow into? It's a mystery. And eventually, at the very end, we do know who Battler grows into, from that one small crack into the singular truth that we get. That is something that not even Ava could have known with her diary. And Battler is better than any of us could have guessed. We'll circle back around to this. This is way too early for this discussion.
Was there something, like, specific you wanted to flag here at this moment, or are you just kind of, like, seeding it?
It's just kind of seeding it, and also going over the fact that, as of right now, this Battler that we have as our peace game master, this Battler in this game who was the murderer and everything, are both equally valid interpretations of who this 12-year-old would grow into.
Yes, totally. That is, I talked about it as, like, a device to, like, give the author a lot of leeway earlier, but I do really like the idea that, a piece can only act in a way that's consistent with the real person, and that rule actually allows for a very wide variety of things to happen, because that, to me, speaks to one of the things that I like about Umineko, which is, like, the multiplicity of truths and the multiplicity of possibilities, and that people contain, you know, the deepest love and the deepest cruelty inside them, the potential for those at the exact same time. And, you know, Rosa, I don't think it works in this episode, but the idea that Rosa can be this loving mother and also be, like, the, you know, worst, horrible, you know, abusive mother, like, that she contains that multitude inside of her, I find very compelling. I wish it took it someplace a little more interesting, but just that idea, I like quite a bit. They solve the mystery, yeah. Erica comes and rescues. It's a fucking... This part is so stupid. It's not worth summarizing. I feel bad saying that about fucking Umineko, but it turns into this stupid fucking thing where it like
it's so long.
Erica rescues Ange, and then Ava Beatrice is there. So they like quote unquote rescue her, and she goes on this fucking spirit journey where she's persuaded to join the cause of truth, to tear down the world of fantasy, because what Angie's wanted this whole time is the single truth of Rakenjima, which is...
And to die.
Oh, and to die, yes. She wants the single truth of Rakenjima, which is like, we learn now, recorded in this secret diary that Ava had this whole time, which, like, whatever, I'll give him that. So that she can, like, learn the final truth of what actually, truly, you know, like, beyond red truth happened on the island that day, and then off herself. If you remember, this was the exact character arc she went through in episode 4. And
yes.
Here she is doing it again.
Yay!
In the console port, she gets like this awesome new witch outfit that is not at all in the original sprites. We should find a way to link that in the show notes too.
Find a way to show it to me.
Yeah, for real.
Well, hold on a second. If you're going to bring up awesome new outfits, then you have to talk about the other awesome new outfit.
No, you can't. You don't have to.
No, not yet. Not yet. Fuck. What was I talking about?
I don't like this part.
You were summarizing your favorite part where she goes on a journey to find the truth and die.
Right, exactly. So they all show back up on the game board. They fuck it up. Basically, Ava Beatrice summons like the sea of goats from the internet is what they're called, but basically they're these kind of like personifications of like people speculating and proposing theories about the Rakenjima incident. The idea is that there are so many of them, even if their theories are like kind of shaky or not all that good, there are so many of them that they can like overwhelm the island and like eat away at the possibility space of the cat box and you know just destroy it. Whatever. It's fucking this big stupid battle. And they have this big stupid battle. Ange fights Beatrice, Battler fights Erica. And they have these like closed room battles, and they bring out the red and blue truth, and they remind you of your favorite parts of Umineko again, except they suck. And you can probably tell, but for me, this specific sequence is the absolute low point of this episode. I think it is
so long.
It's so long.
Genuinely directly bad. It's not even like, oh, he's going for something and it's not working.
It's directly contradicting the themes of Umineko is kind of my take on it. So like this is the most that I have like, I can't even like Watsonian this or whatever. I can't be like, because nobody's writing this, right? It's directly me and Ryukishi, and like one of the things that I do is I seek out people talking about Umineko from when it was serializing. And obviously I can only read the English language ones because I don't speak Japanese. So in some respects, like the whole like very, very obvious subtext that this is about fan reception to Umineko.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Holy shit, I understand why he felt like they are people who are tearing apart his narrative with no thoughts of the heart of it, because I have read a lot of that from that era. But when you spend so much time reaching directly through the screen and gripping me and telling me to solve your mystery, it's here for me to solve for you, to the point that there is an actual mystery that you have to solve to progress in this story, and then spending fucking 50,000 words or whatever tearing apart people who are trying to solve your fucking mystery. Like, that's so strange to me. It's like a direct contradiction.
So, Caelum, can I ask you, obviously there wasn't like any kind of specific scientific rigor around this, but if you have in your mind, can you give us just sort of like a general summary of like post-episode 7, pre-episode 8, if you have that time period? If not, we can just go more general, but like what are people thinking right now when this is coming out?
People hated episode 7, general. There was someone who like wrote like 7,000 words or whatever, like a long ass post about how much they hated episode 7, to the point that they dropped it at the tea party, did not read episode 8.
Incredible move.
Funniest possible moment to drop Umineko. So like this like anecdote, like this apocryphal history of people like snapping their Umineko discs over episode 7. I believe it because that is legitimately the fan reception that I saw in some English language forums. Some of the ones that I saw were like really shallow surface level stuff that really only cared about shipping. whether or not Shannon and George's endgame or Jessica and Canada's endgame, or obviously,
oh my god,
like I saw a lot of that. That tends to taper
a lot
off.
of straight people in the club tonight.
Did you read the story, Jessica? These two pairings are not in contention.
Yeah, like it's a lot of that tend to taper off around episode 6. I feel like people that were really
that
only
makes sense.
into it for shipping didn't end up finishing Umineko. And then people who have, like, I never saw anyone, like, directly pissed off about episode 8. I mostly saw people arguing about episode 7 and then being like, Umineko is the greatest piece of fiction of all time, which I agree with. But, like, some of I, like, documented a bunch of it, but I didn't, like, write notes because I didn't know if I was going to reference it in this.
Totally. If I had my druthers together when I started doing this, and it wasn't just a mad sprint because I had an Umineko virus that I had to infect other people with as soon as I could, I would have loved to, like, actually go through. I think you were looking at Anime Suki.
Yeah, I was looking at Anime Suki, which is, from my understanding, the inception point for the fan translation for Umineko. So there's a lot of really, really good stuff that is contemporary to it. But the most memorable one was when I was reading the Visual Novel Database contemporary threads, because those people are insane. Like, Anime Suki generally had good stuff, and then VNDB did not.
If anyone is interested in a project that actually does that kind of history, where people are reading through contemporary fan reactions and comparing them to a work that is very driven by fan reactions, I would recommend you listen to the Ranged Touch podcast, Homestuck Made This World.
I was about...
It's very, very good.
Oh god, you're talking about Homestuck Made This World. Yeah, that's the best part of Homestuck Made This World, is the contemporary reading.
It's too soon for me to go back.
That's how I felt too, genuinely.
It's okay, because, like, I'm, like, indirectly referenced, like, 4 times in that podcast, and it's so scary. I, like, ended up, like, talking to the podcast creators about it.
It's too real. I wasn't in the Something Awful thread. So
I'm the reason I wanted the Something Awful threads closed.
Nice.
So
you're doing God's work, Caelum.
Yeah.
You literally are. Anyways, like that is a podcast that is doing, maybe this is giving us too much credit, but is doing what we're doing for Homestuck, for Umineko, but for Homestuck. Except they are like 2 academics who have training and are doing genuine history work, or at least one of them is. So I would highly recommend checking that out if you're interested in this kind of work.
And also, yeah, I feel like you have to have read Homestuck for you to care about that podcast.
Yeah, also, there will probably be a segment...
So you really should not watch that podcast, huh?
But yeah, so I feel like my thesis at this point here is that it feels like that the depiction of the goats is directly contradicting Ryukishi's desire for us to solve the mystery. Like, he's just going... solve the mystery. No, not that way. Right? It's very strange.
I think there's a potential charitable read. I agree where you're coming from. But I feel like maybe the idea behind the goats were like, each of the goats that came up with a theory, they usually went against it with like, we've already gone over this, or I've already established the rules, aren't you paying attention? And like because Glenor and Willard are there, and they're just cutting them down with the rules that were like already presented in the previous episodes.
Yeah, the Van Dynes and the Nox rules, yeah.
And like then there's the huge goat who just refuses to think.
Mm-hmm. And then Willard thinks about how much he loves Agatha Christie and breaks free. It's fucking so funny. It's one of the funniest parts of this is Willard has this slay moment, yeah, where the goat says, "I'm not going to think at all. It's nothing. This mystery is nothing." And it's like, "You're not going to think about a mystery?" And Willard fucking kicks his ass. And it's this fucking long diatribe. You can tell, like, it has the feeling of Ryukishi desperately wanted to post, but knew that he could not post, or it was too early to post. And so he took it to the ultimate post, his own story that he was making.
The ultimate post.
It's crazy.
I think while I could try to come up with a charitable idea about it and like see like, oh, maybe it makes sense in these contexts, I think it really comes across that he's just bitter.
Yeah, there's really a lot of comparison to draw between episode 8 of Umineko and the back half of Homestuck. Sorry.
And like, especially when they get to the goats that are like denying the very existence of Shannon and Canon, and Ryukishi just being like, are you even paying a fucking attention?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I think kind of like Homestuck in this way. You get too deep into it, but when you create a story that is about engaging with a fandom, not just with readers, but with a fandom, which I think Umineko doesn't draw that line as cleanly as Homestuck does, which is really about fandom specifically. I think Umineko is still kind of about a readership, but it also is about a fandom in the sense of it is an otaku readership, so there's kind of that going on. You know, you're like actively responding to your fan base by changing things, and you know, you rewrite episode 3 so that there's more information, and like you're trying to draw people in. You know, it can. This isn't to say like, and fuck Ryukishi, he made his own house and live in it. But there's a sense of like, to make a novel with that kind of relationship in mind, it's notable to me that Homestuck and Umineko both kind of end up in this place where segments of the readership are sectioned off and deemed to be bad readers, and you have the characters in the story like fighting them directly and saying, look at this guy who only cares about plot, look at this guy who isn't doing the mystery correctly, look at how stupid he is. There's something to the idea of presenting in your story that is like deeply meta in its conceit about here are the bad readers, you know, and how that blows out and how that it goes back into your story and how that affects dynamics out in your readership. We don't have like the kind of research it would take to make hard lines and points and distinctions about that, but it's very notable to me that here at the end of it all, what Ryukishi is doing is that the relationship between him and his readership has deteriorated to the point that has deteriorated to this point. I'm sorry, someone has highlighted the word slay in the outline and just made it cursive in red. So that all happens. They break it down. They bust it down. Ange gets the book. Everybody escapes. The goats are still attacking the Ushiramiya mansion and Rakenjima in general. Everybody escapes into the Golden Land, which is the one place the goats can't get to. And Ange and Bernkastel squad run away to the City of Books, which is Feathering's zone. And Ange opens up the book and she reads it, essentially.
Was the City of Books interesting to anyone?
Kind of conceptually, but like how
and Lambda and Burn, but like it really wasn't for me. It really wasn't. I was like, this is not what I care about.
They refer to it in this interview as like, oh, the idea that we had was we wanted to make. So the first idea that they had was they wanted to make something called Castle Burn.
Please.
Fuck yes.
Castle that Bernkastel would live in. And they like sourced photos and where they were trying to source photos and all this stuff. And for the placeholder art, they just put like some library shelves or something. And when Castle Burn wouldn't come together for whatever reason, I think it might have been like a production reason, really. They ended up going with the library thing. And they were specifically referred to like for both of these ideas. They wanted to have the feeling of a final dungeon in a JRPG, and like
it really didn't feel that way.
Yeah, it's really grindy, and you just want to get to the end, much like an actual JRPG.
like the gameplay of the game is thinking about the story and not watching Battler and Ange have a little adventure.
Yeah, the final fucking dungeon was the back half of episode 7. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the part that made all of the cool fight scenes and like the weird like meta witch reveal stuff interesting is that it all happened like in line with Rokenjima, right? Like as things were happening in that real world place on that island, that stuff was like sick. Like the first time fucking Virgilia shows up and pulls her fucking towers out of the ground, like it's all stupid, but it's kind of awesome that time because you haven't seen that before, because it's like on Rokenjima, like in the middle of this real
it feels like an expansion, like holy shit, this is what this book can be. Like, and they're still having this argument, but they're like fighting with swords but with words. Like, yeah, it's fucking awesome.
And again, it's literally within the game world, so to like create another place where it's like it's a space you can't really comprehend, there's a bunch of cats, they turn into whales, and that whale turns into a sun. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you just got like lost in the weeds of like power creep of this concept of the meta world, you know, and
I
sort of lost the plot.
The most interesting thing that does is establish that Bernkastel's real life Sona is like a cat named Burn that Hachijo has.
Starts writing faster, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I really liked that.
Remember fucking when Feathering did that attack and it was just like, I'll write what I did to you later?
That's also really good, but she's like, fucking whatever.
There's some stuff that does work for me, but like the City of Books by itself is just kind of whatever. It's like, okay, I get it, but it doesn't like spark me to life, you know?
They spend a lot of time there and like on like the setting and the everything.
My
It just seems
favorite
wasted.
part of this is examining it purely from like a reality standpoint, where Hachijo calls a massive like true crime like press event because she says that she has unlocked the truth of Rokkenjima, and it's in this book. She gets everyone there and she goes up on stage and says, "Never mind, fuck you," and then leaves. It's
hilarious.
So funny.
She does one thing beyond that as well. She says, "Never mind, fuck you, and fuck you for trying."
Yeah, and just leaves. Like, and then they're saying that
She has her
made
cat on stage too.
the mystery died from that. That is the fakest thing about that, because I think people would start talking about it even more if somebody did that.
I think somebody would have mugged her on her way off that stage in reality.
Like, killed her.
Yeah, one of the things that like does kind of work for me is the idea that Feathering and Ikuko, like as like this dual persona, are holding this conference both in the world of witches and in reality too. That's like kind of interesting to me as like you were talking about, Anna, like the meta power creep. But that's about
Again,
it.
and that works because it's like part real world, part fantasy.
Yeah,
you know,
there
for
are
this
actual
thing where they're
like some stakes to it, you know.
I really like Ikuko and Feathering, and it's really unfortunate that this is the circumstances that they're in for basically the entire episode.
Yeah, they show up in 6 and then maybe a tiny bit at the end of 7 and then 8, and that's
To
it.
answer your question about the City of Books, I've so thus far very much enjoyed the like overindulgent fights and final moments and stuff.
Me too.
It's like
totally.
the least I've actively engaged with Umineko like in my head.
Yeah, I was like,
I know, right?
This will end at some point, and then I can move on. Like, I'm just like skimming.
It's junk food Umineko, and it feels weird to say that.
It's so padded. Like, I've told a lot of people and telling them to read Umineko that there's not a wasted moment in the entire visual novel because I hadn't read episode 8 yet.
You packed it all into one. Christ. So Angie opens up this book. She reads it. The single truth of Rokkenjima. This is like one of the cruxes of the novel, and ends up, because it's like kind of the crux of this novel, ends up kind of like vibrating back. I mean, Angie's been looking for something like this since episode 4, since episode 3, even if you want to count the tea party. I think we have written here, like, why do you think it is bad to expose this? Like,
Let
what
me
is
tell you about
what
the
is the
single
thing?
truth.
What is the thing? What's going on?
Let me tell you about the single truth. The way it's represented in the story, it's the actual truth about what happened on the island, right?
Yes.
And this is what Angie's been looking for. And what they're trying to convey for the character Angie is that it doesn't matter what happened there. It's not going to change anything for her.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true.
And then by learning that, she learns it. It's hidden from us as the readers, but she learns it, and this is when she goes tuck tail between her legs back to her family and is like, "You all were right, I was an idiot," right? But I think for the reader, I think what Ryukishi wanted was kind of like for the game not to end.
Yes, he says pretty much that in this interview.
Yeah, he says that word for word.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm intelligent.
You were right as hell. Yeah, keep going.
Once again.
And like his point of view, and I feel like this comes across, that the game should stay a closed cat box, as was said multiple times near the end. So us as readers can continue to think about it and discuss it, etc. And then also, and I don't know if he intended this, I think it comes off as a scathing indictment of the true crime kind of weirdos on the internet.
It really predates that. I was doing some research just to be sure. I mean, I don't know what necessarily it's like in Japan, but at least in the US, true crime really takes off. The true crime that I know of in its kind of modern form, podcasts like Serial and My Favorite Murder, that all happens in the mid 2010s. So Umineko, like, really on the ball with this one in an interesting way.
Yeah, it's really surprising how like you said, on the ball, like really like prescient about true crime fandom. I think the only indicator that it predates true crime fandom is because people stop fucking talking about Rokkenjima after the press conference. Like, that would make the fucking unsolved mystery subreddit go insane for like years. Like, what?
And so I feel like this jumping back and forth between the meta world and the real world is Ryukishi trying to juggle the idea of, I want to pay off the idea that this is a mystery that we should keep thinking about, but I've also already created this context of, in the world of Umineko, this is a real, true crime event that happened, and I need to, like, condemn that in some way, because there's multiple characters, including Featherine in the real world, being like, this is not something we should be trying to delve into. This is some people's personal lives, you know?
Yeah, it needs to be a climax to the story of Umineko so far, which has been exclusively about figuring out what really happened and solving mysteries and looking further into things and uncovering the truth of situations and stuff. And it needs to be a finale to Ange's story, which is about, hey, stop worrying about the truth. Hey, this is a real thing that actually happened to you. And, like, you don't need to, like, dwell on this so much. You need to go out and live. And, like, fucking Ryukishi having this feels to me like a cross purpose of both trying to do that with Ange, where it's like, go out and live your life and the Ushiramias will always be with you and stop thinking about the truth. And, hey, I need to keep the mystery alive for everyone so that everyone can continue to think about Umineko forever. Like, those are kind of, I don't know if you know this, Ryukishi, but these are not purposes that are necessarily copacetic with another. I think that's another reason that, for me, the book doesn't work in the ways it doesn't work, is because it feels like it's trying really hard to do both things and succeeding at being neither.
Uh-huh.
I would actually say that this is a systemic issue that runs back through the whole thing that is just made really apparent here, of just like, no, you need to take a look at the heart of the story. It, like, the why it happened is so important, way more important than the who it happened. Then every once in a while, the story kicks you in the teeth and says, so who did it?
Uh-huh.
Think.
Yeah.
Don't stop thinking. But you need to make sure you're also thinking about this other part. You need to think about Rosa so hard. We're going to spend so much time on fucking Rosa. It's a thing that you see that's just really brought under in this episode specifically, because it doesn't have the answer it needs. It just doesn't.
Did anyone want to know? Were any of y'all curious what was in that book?
No.
I think we already know what's in the book.
I will say I'm kind of poisoned by knowledge, by knowing, again, the manga makes some changes.
Yeah, I've heard the manga makes it much more explicit what happens.
And also, setting that aside, I have my own personal truth, which is that Bernkastel gives you that out for the Tea Party of Seven.
Yeah.
That's the fucking truth, as far as I'm concerned.
I've literally been operating under the same circumstances. I was just sort of curious what, like, Ava wrote TM, I guess, but yeah.
Like, I don't know if that is actually the single truth of Rakenjima, but, like, to me personally, like, something like that took place, and it blew up in Sayo's face, and everyone fucking murdered each other in a really petty way, and yeah, like, this grand vision of, like, mystery and fantasy, none of it happened because of the horrible greediness and dysfunction of the Ushiramiya family.
I honestly, personally, I was just like, I don't care what's in the book. Like, I think I had been personally, the intent of what Ryukishi wanted me to feel came through, and I think that's been a through line for me personally through all 8 episodes, is that I'm like, he's playing me like a little fucking puppet, and I'm just always feeling the way he wants me to feel, and you all are like, I feel differently, and I'm like, oh man, you guys might be right. But like, I came out of it going, Angie, you shouldn't have read the book. Like I don't want to like call you a shithead or nothing. I don't think you are. But, like, my brain was like, no, don't read that. You don't need to know that. That's what Battler said. Battler's so cool and smart.
I think that the book doesn't have Leon in it, so I don't care what's in it.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
It's interesting to me that Angie needs to read the book to get there. Like, that's a really important nugget of this story to me. Like, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if you can just accept that and truly, like, you don't need to know the actual truth and you can just go on and move on from that. But, like, for my reading and what I take away from Umineko on the whole, it's really, really important that in spite of everyone's like best intentions, like Angie needs to exercise a little bit of that agency and directly confront the fucking truth of the matter. Like that is, I think that the read that kind of comes naturally out of the book is something more like it is regrettable that Angie felt like that Ange had to do that in order to get to where she was.
I think that was one of the believable things about this book that worked for me, that worked for Angie's character, is she had to know, and the information hurt her, and then she didn't want to know, and she changed her mind, and she decided to live her life differently. But you gotta fuck around and find out, like, in the most literal sense. You really have to sometimes do that.
I think you have to fucking look shit square in the face and accept it for the thing that it is, you know? Like, I think that pretty fucking strongly inside of myself. Like, all this stuff about mystery and fantasy and about, like, just personally, I believe very deeply in fantasy, but I need to know what's behind the fantasy in order to hold it up, you know? I want to, like, believe in that stuff and the power of magic, and, you know, yes, it would be nice if you could recapitulate with your family and if you could reintegrate and you could carry some version of that with you, but you fucking gotta be able to look at it and see the thing that it is, you know? And I like that Angie gets to do that and see that. Like, that works for me in the novel. It does not work for me that immediately after she's like, damn, I shouldn't have fucking done that. You were all right. Sorry, Battler. What I should have done is just lived in perfect ignorance or whatever. I don't think that's what the story's saying. But
I don't think that's what the story... I think she's just saying that. It's the regret of knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
You learn something that hurts you, and it changes your whole life, and you don't necessarily want to live with that, but that's how you're living now, and she sort of does choose to live in that. You know, she's not looking away. I mean, she literally knows, you know? She doesn't cut that part of her brain off in some weird metaphorical thing. She chooses to go back. You know, I do miss you all, and I do still miss you all. Actually, that didn't help at all. You know, I've still felt that loss.
The choice to go back is the thing that I like about Umineko.
Her returning did not even hurt me. Like, everything that happened after that was, like, dumb and shallow, and, like, the conversations she had and the people had with each other after that were so drawn out and vapid, I thought. But, like, her making that choice and then going back and being like, actually, I miss you all a whole fucking lot. Like, that surprisingly didn't disappoint me or upset me or hurt me like a lot of the other stuff in this book did. That was like, yeah, I mean, fuck, sure. I do the same thing, you know, fucking on a very just personal level, same, you know?
Yeah, like the character, you know, literally approaches suicide and looks it in the face and, you know, learns the horrible truth, and it's just horrible, and, like, she decides to reject it and has to come, like, kind of with her tail between her legs back to her family, who take her back and all of that stuff. Yeah, that stuff does work for me when you lay it out like that, definitely.
And it wouldn't have made sense for Angie's character to not look at the book. She needed to look at it. And also, I'm just now thinking this, her reaction to learning about what happened, like, if it was Ava, I feel like she would have been like, I fucking knew it, or something.
Exactly, yeah.
I think her response to it really lends credence to the idea that shit just broke bad and everyone just started murking each other.
And it was pointless, yeah. It was just pointless.
It was a pointless... There was no ultimate culprit. There was no real purpose to what was going on. It was just chaos, like you all were saying.
Like Ryukishi was saying.
And then the diary just says shit like, and then Rudolph shot Hideyoshi, but then Kraus shot Maria. Like, what the hell? Like, there's no point.
And then Dave's sister will walk in, and then she will shoot him.
Yeah, oh my god, yes.
This is a reference to a 2010 Saturday Night Live sketch. Enjoy!
What to say? Yeah, people
it's
even
also,
still know
you know,
that
it's
song.
Ava's journal. It's not like a neutral telling of the narrative. So, like, if she had any responsibility, whereas the culprit, quote unquote, she's not going to write that down in her diary, right? We don't see, like, I think a couple people
We are given the red truth that it is actually in there. The truth as Ava saw it is in there.
Yeah, it does contain the single truth. But you're right, Caelum, that it's important to remember it is still Ava's diary. So even if the single truth is in there, it's like Ava's version of the single truth.
It's squashed between stories about sex with Hideyoshi.
Oh.
You were so desperate to continue bringing that up, like, over the course of pretty much this entire time that you've
maybe
been
that's
reading
why
it.
Angie was so apologetic afterwards, because all it did was...
for real. That was what the trauma was about.
All Ava wrote in the diary was the sex that she had with Hideyoshi on Rokunjima.
Yeah.
And then...
And then after that, all she wrote out was how much she missed the sex with Hideyoshi.
If I call you mom, will you stop sending me your fanfic?
So Angie does a dive to the heart. She feels bad about it. We get a little bit here of we don't need to talk about it too much, but of this mystery character, this Hachijo Toya, who is not just Featherine, but Featherine is Ikuko Hachijo. and this Toya character shows up out of nowhere, and Ikuko nurses him back to health, and he's 18. He knows about mystery novels. And
we don't know the gender. They are 18.
Excuse me. Yes,
I'm 18 person.
I will say I'm stupid. So I heard Toya had headaches, and I was like, oh shit, it's Nazi.
18? I'm age 18, she says. Delusional. Oh, yeah. No. We have to do the rest of the episode with that being true. Hold on.
Natsuhi and Ikuko lesbian relationship forever.
Would prefer it if it was Nazi. Like, I think this twist is stupid, but I love it. It's pulpy bullshit.
I do love it. Yeah, again, we can talk more about Toya specifically, but I really like it. It feels like such a wonderful little, like, writerly, like, fiction can be heightened and exaggerated, right? It feels like just a perfect little button on Umineko in that way.
So we have 54 minutes of Natsuhi left.
Let me hold on.
So we get that, and I'll say when I first read this, I didn't tap into that it was Battler at all. I was just like, well, who could that be? I don't know.
I thought it was Ange.
Okay, to be clear, I got it instantly, but I was like, dude, this would be so much better if it was Nazi.
We have to talk all about that. That's going to the tea party. That's the first and main topic.
This is the first and only forgery produced by the Golden Truths cast.
I think Anna would love this episode if that was Nazi.
I love it more already, even though it wasn't.
Such is the power of the goats on the internet. I don't know, man.
I'll be a goat, whatever.
We're our own breed of goat.
The people in the Golden Land, they find Ange somehow. They dredge her up. It's a miracle. It's certainty. It's whatever. They find her. She says she's so sorry. They talk about stuff, and basically Battler and Ange hatch this plan to go get the book before Feathering can open it. They're going to go get the book, and they're going to steal it away and send Ange to the future so that the cat box stays alive forever. At the same time this is happening, Erica and her pirate fleet, and in the console and the Pachinko sprites, her wonderful pirate hat are beginning their assault on the Golden Land, and there's this whole stupid farce that happens where they need to do a fake argument to make it look like Battler's still there. And
it's not very funny or interesting.
It's fine, but it's not good.
It's very stupid and padded out, much like everything regarding the goats.
And there's a big witch fight.
Well, the witch fight's also fucking boring.
So the fucking God, okay, what fucking order does any of this stuff happen in? This fucking episode.
Doesn't matter at this stage, at this moment that we're talking about. Yeah, I think it is funny that in this argument they're having to, like, slow down Erica's assault while Battler and Ange go on a secret Lambda Delta supported mission to steal the book, and they have to argue to pretend, and it's Goda who fucks everything up because they're all fooling Erica this whole time while she's watching them fake argue, and then Goda says something that directly contradicts himself, where he did not even have to do such a thing, and that fucks everything up. So Goda blew it one last time, and she literally says there's only two possibilities. There's one possibility is that Goda is a fucking loser who would switch sides whenever it fits him, and there's another possibility where he fucked it up. So.
And of course, just like Umineko, there is a multiplicity of truths. Both of those are true.
that's what Ryukishi's trying to teach us.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to teach us. Some of the stuff in the City of Books, like the City of Books itself as a setting, doesn't really work for me. But this stuff where it's like Lambda and Battler and Ange, and they're like, oh, Battler and Ange are pieces, so they have to, sneak around, and if they get caught, they'll die instantly, and the music is playing, and their stupid little fake argument is happening. That doesn't not work for me. It works for me better than the fucking assault on Rakenjima shit, but it's pretty stupid. It's like full farce at this point.
The fight on Rakenjima really doesn't work for me here, because it's all the same stuff that they've been doing. They're just like, remember everyone's super moves? Say the line!
Yeah, it is literally. Higurashi has this exact same fucking thing in it. And it's just as stupid there.
But that one's way funnier because it's a nerd. Just one nerd.
And it's better there, I guess, because Higurashi, I just don't like Higurashi as much, and so I take it slightly less seriously. So seeing like, wow, everybody does a trap, and Oishi proves he's a real good cop or whatever. It's fucking stupid, but it's like fun. And
He's not.
yeah, here Rosa getting her stupid fucking slay moment where she's like, I'll show you what happens if anyone says I'm
Maria
not.
loads the gun.
It's fucking so stupid. Everyone, fucking George gets a CG in the console version.
George yells, "If I had friends, I'd defend them!"
But Jessica doesn't. Jessica
loser.
doesn't get a CG. That sucks. Rudolph and Kyrie are there, and fucking everybody does some stuff. There were some scenes that were cut from this. Let me see if I can pull these up. These were...
They cut scenes from this?
Leon was going
Can
to
you imagine?
fight.
There was stuff that they decided not to include in this fucking scene.
Oh
Yes,
my
sorry, Anna. Please go ahead.
Nanjo didn't get a super attack.
They said that, yeah, they said Nanjo doesn't get an attack, so we wanted to edit him into the background, and that made things take longer. They really delayed production. They said Leon gets an attack where Natsui is getting like attacked by a goat, and Leon comes up and pinches its ass and it explodes or something like that.
Why did they cut that?
They said
I hate
because
this
we
fucking
already
novel.
it was already a polished book and like we didn't need stuff like that, and they're like, thank you for showing restraint here and everywhere else
my
in this book. Yeah, you're
God.
I don't
right.
know if I'd call this polished.
Fucking incredible.
I don't know if I call that restraint.
Remember when Beatrice just fully lost to Erica? Just totally lost. That's it.
Again, Beatrice, not a character in this, just like a kind of like a generic personification of the game board when she needs to be at her like most powerful. Or like, again, like wife, girl who loves being a wife. Like that's what she's got going on in this one. It's such a fucking shame.
Our trad wife Beatrice.
Not incorrect. Not fucking incorrect.
We're fucked.
There's so much opportunity here. And again, I will reference the manga here for the last time because it's the last thing I know about it, but I do understand that Beatrice has more of a presence and is like an actual fucking character in that version of the story. So again, we will read some amount of it. I don't know how much, but definitely some amount of it for a bonus episode.
Uh-oh.
Although I guess if we think about it, this Beatrice is still the Beatrice that Battler created after the old Beatrice died.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, there's something kind of interesting there about, like, you could get, like at least play with the idea of, like, does that mean that Sayo is dead? Does that mean that, like, oh, this is actually Sayo and when, who was it? Virgilia Renove said, that Beatrice will never revive. Or did they just mean, like, that incarnation of Sayo? Like, I don't know. Not to, like, beg for, like, the Marvel Universe power rankings universe mechanics or whatever, but, like, I feel like there's, like, you're already doing that, so you may as well do it for Beatrice, who I like, instead of all this stupid bullshit.
Remember when Beatrice came back from the dead to fight Erica and beat her instantly?
Fucking rule. I keep thinking about it. Like, episode 6 is not my favorite full episode, but everything from Beatrice's resurrection through to the end of that book is the fucking best shit ever. That is like might just be my favorite like single continuous string of chapters in Umineko. It's so good. Okay, just big battle, everybody fights, everybody argues, everybody fights. The City of Book stuff kind of works for me, but the stuff on the game board and the Golden Land doesn't. What the fuck was I saying?
I liked Lambda.
Lambda's good. Yeah, how do we feel about Lambda in this episode?
I liked Lambda.
She was fun. Like, as far as, like, this episode goes, she was, like, in top form.
What better dying words are there than vote me high on the character poll?
It's so good! she did it, you know? She literally made it to third place just like she asked for. Immediately after episode 8 came out. She did it. That's the best thing to come out of episode 8.
That's stupid.
I like Burncastle and Lambda's fight for the same reason I like Feathering. Like, just getting to see them, like, and I'm not gonna hold anything back. Like, you know, very fandom brain thing. It's a lot of fun. That stuff, at least, is, like, new and kind of interesting and is... There are all these, like, weird CGs for it in the console port.
There's, like, full animations of, like, turning into a whale and
whale
biting
attack.
You. It's very
The
strange.
snakes. It's so weird.
It's like they had a budget for, like, unique art assets for every episode, and there are no new characters in episode 8, and honestly, not a lot going on. So they just go completely sicko mode for this fight, and there's like a million new CGs.
There's a new character in episode 8. It's the Battler we have.
Yeah, true enough.
True. No new art assets for him.
They do all that. They fucking fight Supreme. Blah 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 blah. All that happens.
It's indulgent. It's fun. Like
it's indulgent. Yeah, it's fun. I like it better than the other big battle scene. At least
it's like the first time that we see the two of them go all out. So it's cool to like see what their moves are, like the whole like turn into Kennedy.
It totally has that exact angle to it. It's just you like these two. It's fun to see them fight. I do still like Umineko fight scenes. So this one, which is like novel and it's these characters. Yeah, that is fun and it feels like a big bombastic end to to Umineko. Battler gets pinned and killed, and Erica comes back and says, "Yeah, I killed the Golden Land. There's no one's alive anymore." And then Ange powers up with the power of Golden Truth. Which is, you get it? You get what Golden Truths are now?
No, what are Golden Truths?
You say no you. You say no you and everyone comes back to life.
It is the power of, it's the thing that powered, like, the episode 4 mystery. It's consensus. It's the power of, well, if we just believe this, it's just belief, right? It is, well, the red truth might be this, but I believe this, and I believe it so hard, and I take it so seriously that it is a golden truth that surpasses even red truth. And they say that that golden truth can be weaker or stronger than red truth, depending on whatever, like back in episode 5, because it is, it is the power of belief, the power of your own belief, and the power of multiple people's belief in something. So, like, when in episode 7, Willard says, illusions drawn by the power of the golden truth return to illusions or something. He says for some of episode 4. That's because what was going on in episode 4 was everyone agreeing to a story that they were feeding to other people, That's what the golden truth is. That's why Ange has the power of the golden truth. That's why she's the Witch of Resurrection. She resurrects everybody. It's cool, and it's something.
Is it cool?
Well, the book thinks it is.
We're supposed to think it's cool, for sure.
It's cool enough.
We're named Golden Truths. We have to at least go like, yeah, it's all right.
I have here to talk about, like, mystery and magic and Umineko, but I feel like I kind of talked about that already with talking about, like, the difference between breakage and recapitulation. That's how that kind of shakes out for me, is that magic is really about, like, how do I put this? The delineation between mystery and magic, I was kind of getting at this in episode 7 too. Like, what is allowed to be mystery and what is allowed to be magic, and what is mystery definitively and what is magic definitively. It's interesting, and it can allow you to think about some things in different ways, but some of the outputs of it, where, say, the book doesn't say one way or the other, but I feel like if you follow, like, this kind of, like, logical chain, you use this tool set that it gives you, it's possible for you to come out with a theory where you say, or come out not with a theory, but like with a reading of the text where you can say, that Sayo is a girl is magic, right? Like that is like an illusion that everyone believes in. And then red truth is something horrible, horrible, right?
Is that an illusion everyone believes in, I guess?
Right? Like
that sweating IRL. I mean,
I it feels like that is if you are taking these rules seriously and you're thinking about them in serious ways, that is like a way, like you can imagine like a worse version of Umineko having some kind of red or golden truth battle where fucking like, battler comes and says, no, Sayo's a real girl and fucking golden truth or whatever. Like, come on.
And someone says like in red, I saw her dick.
yeah, for sure.
Very
real,
much.
Right?
You did not see her dick. But that is part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Red truth, the strap is a real dick.
Yeah. You did not.
Yeah, golden truth. And like that's like kind of the power, and like that's what like Umineko is like saying, like, Umineko is very deeply on the side of magic, but also there's just this like, it feels kind of paternalistic, when I think about it, and I think about it in kind of a cynical way, I guess, a less gracious way, like, I don't know, dude. I mean, like, putting things into, this is, I guess, just kind of a natural output of creating a binary where some things are mystery and some things are magic, and you break it out and into places that the book itself doesn't go or doesn't account for, you know? I don't know that having an accounting for this would make Umineko any better, but I don't know. I like Umineko a lot, but I do think a lot about this kind of like, is the central kind of paradox I have, I guess, in my enjoyment, where at the center of it is something that I think is like just ultimately kind of insufficient for actually thinking about the real world, which, whatever, it's a fantasy. It's a fucking fun fantasy otaku story, but yeah, I think about that quite a bit. Ange makes her choice, and we make her choice. This is the final interactive part. Beatrice does a funny little magic trick. I like the little like flourish that this is Beatrice's puzzle from the quiz game. Like, if things had gone on the way they were supposed to, Beatrice would have done this, and then they would have just let her, go on her way. That's like a fun detail to me.
That is really cute. It's so important to me that not only is it that, it is also the exact same sleight of hand trick that Erica and Maria fucking had a Ben Shapiro argument about.
Well, it's the one that she did earlier in the episode, right? She like literally does this to Ange when they first meet.
Oh, they do. I was trying to remember when this exactly happened.
Apparently, Beatrice only knows one sleight of hand trick.
I think that the one in episode 5 might have, or episode 6 or whenever that was. I think it was a different one. I think that involved the
no,
teacup.
It was candy.
It was a cup.
It was a cup and like surprise candy manifesting.
But in spirit, it is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's a very it's a very simple little trick, and you say, is it a trick or is it magic?
Yeah.
And then she goes off and she says, I'll remember everybody always, and Battler and Ava Beatrice shut the door, and then that's Umineko. Almost.
We have a little bit. We have the best part left.
Let's talk about the trick ending first, obviously, since it kind of very obviously feels like it is not the real ending.
I didn't play it.
Oh, wow, you did.
What?
Because that's the point of the game.
We're doing a podcast.
Well,
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Hey,
That's
right
okay.
on. I get it. We've got plenty of people to talk about it. I get it.
Sorry, I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
I can fill you in now. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Nah, it's alright.
Well, I'm filling you in whether you like it or not. You're strapped down now. This is the real ending as far as I'm concerned. I know all the other stuff happens, but like this ending is basically a continuation of episode 4. Ange does her funny thing and goes through the door and says, I'll never look back and you'll always be behind me. And she wakes up on the boat where Amakusa was playing Mzaki. And
is he playing it again?
no, there's no monochrome cloth.
God
If
damn
only,
it.
can you imagine the one thing this ending is
Yeah,
missing?
she says, I'm gonna steal a joke here. There were multiple colors on the clock the whole time, and then she explodes the boat and everyone dies. She is like, oh yeah, she has her toy, so like if you got the Beatrice doll or whatever from the quiz, she throws that overboard and she's like, blah blah blah. I know what I want to do. I'm gonna live honestly now. Then she deduces out loud using her new Witch of Truth powers. She's like, yeah, so basically you were going to kill me to wrap things up for Okanogi and for the Sumadera family, and you're going to kill the Sumaderas, and you were going to kill me, and that's why you bought all these guns, and you're a freaking creep. No, because it's like, no, I'm not a creep, and then she shoots him to death, which is amazing, which is astounding. And then, she kills the captain too, whatever.
Kawabata!
yeah, she kills Kawabata.
Yeah, because he was also, she's like, I also deduced that you were fucking stalling to buy time for the Sumaderas to come and gank me. And that was like by design. That was all part of the plan too, and you were paid off too. There's only one way to deal with this, and regain control of the boat, and so she kills him.
Well, very specifically, she doesn't know. She doesn't know if he was in on it or not. So he himself is a cat box. He could either be in on it or not be in on it. And she says, well, the easiest way to solve a cat box is, and then she fucking shoots him in the head, which is...
Yeah, but he was in on it.
Which is fucking
so
metal.
she was
Okay,
right.
okay.
I mean, the good thing about this is when I read episode 4, the thing that hurt me the most was that at the end of her journey, and finally all of the good things I've said on every episode podcast since is, wow, she really gets to do it all on her own and become real and integrate magic and the real world and make it real. And then Amakusa kills her. And that's fucked up. She gets one over on him, and then she flies away with her Erica Tulpa, who's like, it's pretty fun to kill, right? And she's like, yeah, Erica was pretty fun to kill. And then that is the end, and it plays the Umineko no Naku Koro Ni song.
Yeah, the original opening, yeah.
The thing that I didn't like is, like, I like this ending, for me, personally, but I feel like this is sort of what this whole episode is doing, where it was like, whoa, cool reveal, Amakusa was gonna kill her the whole time, like, just in case you didn't know that, you know, it's sort of like, it's the fake ending, obviously, it's not canon, and it uses it to, like, wrap up a loose end that maybe you were wondering about, but I feel like for us, and in so many other places too, with these, like, reveals like Battler was the illegitimate child, or whatever, you know, like, all of these things we already figured out, so, I don't know, it felt a little hollow, too, that way.
Yeah, well, trick ending 1,000,000% cooler than anything that happens in the fucking magic ending. Magic ending is like sweet and like nice, and it's the finalization of like all the shit this stupid episode was about, but the fucking trick ending fucking rules. Fucking metal as shit. Just gank two people, one of whom might have been innocent, and ride your boat with your Erica brainmate off into the sunset. It's so fucking good.
Here's the thing about the trick ending. So Battler's goal with this game was to get Ange to move on with her life and stop being so focused on the Rokujima incident. And the trick ending is the one where she does that. Because in the magic ending, she like literally spends the rest of her life fucking devoted to the Rokujima, like to the point that she like recreates part of the fucking mansion.
I was saying
we're gonna talk about it.
Like she does not move on fundamentally in the magic ending. So the trick ending where she just fucking murders two people and then I guess learns how to drive a boat in real time. That's the one that should be the right one, because that's the one her embracing what Battler wants to teach her. But it's like a third of the length of the magic ending. It's so obviously not the one that you're supposed to pick. It's so funny.
It doesn't work with the tea party and the Hachijo stuff.
You literally cannot unlock the tea party unless you do the magic ending.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't realize that because I chose magic first.
The tea party had instantly unlocked when I did magic.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
So you do not, because I did trick ending first and then I reloaded it and I did not get the tea party until I did the magic ending.
Yeah, all that shit fucking rips. I do also like the magic ending because I'm a sentimental little fuck, but yeah, the trick ending is cool as shit. And in some ways should be the true ending.
I think Mammon should have been there and kissed her on the mouth at the end. That's the only way to improve it.
For fuck's sake. I mean, what is it? It's not that hard, Ryukishi. Come on.
If it was not so obviously Ange turns super evil, I would try and I guess, yeah, I didn't know that thing about the tea parties. It's not even
evil,
but...
you know? I have this whole thing about, like, what is, like, the real timeline? Like, what the fuck is real? Because, like, she goes through all of episode 4, and, like, is that whole 1998, is that a fragment? Like, her going through that and, like, going to the island? Is that believed to be a fragment? Is that what happens for real? Because she winds up in the Golden Land, like, dead or whatever, dies and goes to the Golden Land, but then, like, was that real? Did that happen? Is this a fragment? Is she alive for real now? Is she living in the real world? Like, a lot of stuff gets really mixed up here, and I feel like this one is with continuity of the other one. Like, it's something that literally already happened.
Yeah.
Earlier in the episode, at some point, she wakes up in Amakusa's car, like, in the middle of part of their journey or whatever, and she wakes up in, Human Featherin's house, you know, with Amakusa while they're interviewing.
Yeah, Featherin kind of does the two worlds. He kind of dark world, light world.
Yeah, like those parts that were in episode 4 happen here. So like, what is the continuity? You know, it's I mean, it's whatever. It's a nitpicky point, but like, as the character who I like, not just like blatantly simping wise, genuinely care the most about, like, it's kind of bizarre how they twist her around so much. I liked this because it's in line with what happened earlier, and it's her overcoming the trauma of earlier directly, which is what all these other characters get to do in this stupid ass episode. So she gets to do that too. That's the real deal. She drives right past Rokujima. Like, she does believe in magic now. Her magic is like understanding the truth and just like making choices to defend herself. Same as on the island that day with the stakes and everything. I think it's ridiculous because by the end of episode 4, like, she does undergo a full character arc and recapitulates and like is
she
living
doesn't recapitulate the right way. She's too stuck up on the truth, right? She's not moving on in the way that
What
you're
are you gonna
supposed
do?
to move on.
You gonna hit your mother? Yeah, like for real.
She moves on by, she walks right into their trap. It's so
She
stupid.
claims her own life and believes in the magic while also making it real with the guns, you know? Like, oh, that's the wrong thing to do. Sure, sorry. Next time she'll cry on the floor for Big Brother. That's what we're supposed to do as a society.
What you're supposed to do is recreate the site of an unknowable trauma and just say, well, it's nice now. And then everything's fine. Everything's fine. Fuck this game. Fuck this fucking episode.
There's two ways to move on, and one of them is to forget about it, and one of them is to just, like, repress it.
Yeah, one of them is to buy into the Fukuin house.
We can get more into it with the Fukuin house stuff, but I do have I do have a slightly more charitable interpretation of it whenever we get there.
Please, by all means.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the trick ending. It's pretty cool. The magic ending, Ange wakes up on top of the building that she was on in episode 3, walks back from the edge and gives the company away, blah 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 blah. All of that stuff happens. And then we get this scene of Battler and Beatrice on the boat on October 6th, 1986. This is the scene of this episode. Like, if you go to Umineko fan number 34, excuse me, and you ask them, like, about episode 8, they are going to talk about this fucking scene.
I was genuinely surprised.
It breaks my heart, but it was good.
It literally had me with my mouth open. I was like, holy shit. Take it away, Matt.
I finished reading this last night, and I was laying in bed just staring at my wife, and she looks at me and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I look at her and I go, "You didn't survive Umineko." She went, "Oh no." And I said, "Do you want to know how you died?" And she looks at me and her eyes go wide and her mouth goes tiny and she goes, "Did I walk into the ocean?"
More like a jump. kind of a leap, but
roll back out of the boat. Yeah, good form.
This is this might be my favorite part of the episode because it is trading in the parts of Umineko that I like. 1, Beatrice is there, thank God. 2, there is like subtext. Wouldn't you know it? Umineko can have subtext.
Yeah.
Remember,
what's to be gained from staying, what's to be gained from going. Let's live. I mean, I think that's just like really to the point. Everything on that boat, the way that Beatrice like goes in for the kiss, the way that she brings the ingot of gold, like, I mean, this is my understanding of this. Maybe someone has some other understanding, but she brings the ingot of gold and decides to drown herself with it. Like, that's the weight that literally carries her all that way down, because otherwise she's a person and she just floats.
Did this really happen?
I don't think it.
Like, what?
I don't think it has been.
I think this happened. I think that this is why Toya is around. I think that this is Red Truth Real. That's just my opinion. What do you think?
Toya confirms there was a boat.
Yeah, like, Toya confirms there was a boat. I don't know if Beatrice or the ingot were there. I kind of prefer that they would, but if the quote-unquote actual single truth is the one that we see in the episode 7 Tea Party, then Beatrice couldn't be there.
It's... maybe, yeah.
It's never written in red that Sayo died there.
Yeah, who knows? Lots of ways to get hit with a bullet. When I read this the first time, I mean, this is, the big scene. It gets everybody in tears. This is the fucking song, Risaranda something.
That was a good song. Again,
Akiko Shikata carries again.
Also, it's such a departure from...
It is so much better than everything else in this episode!
Well, 'cause that moment is a sort of, like, closing moment for the, like, relationship of Battler and Beatrice, which the whole episode was kind of, like, in the way of.
Yes,
I know. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, how did we like go through this whole fight scene? Battler is in charge of Angie's life thing, and then at the end we're back on Rokenjima, and it's Battler and Beatrice. Like, shit, I would have liked like whatever led up to this. I would have maybe even liked to see that. Like, I don't want to know the single truth, but I would have liked to like see that story. That romanticization of whatever that was would have been so interesting. All of a sudden, we're just in something that feels like a real fucking Umineko book.
I know, for a fucking single scene.
It really feels like that scene was written well before the rest of the episode, and the rest of the episode was fucking padding.
I wonder.
You have to have that be where it is in the episode. It has to be one of the last things in the episode.
Umineko was about these two.
Yeah.
And
it fucking was. It should still be.
Uh-huh.
I get that, like, moving on to Angie, like, that doesn't not work for me, but, like, where the fuck is Beatrice?
Yeah.
Where is she? Why'd you take her away from me?
No, absolutely. I'm right there with you. You know, I prefer Angie just very slightly, but like that is the feeling the whole time. Why is she here being silly for 2 seconds? Why is she doing all this like mysterious and beautiful and sad and like dying, and is she there, isn't she there stuff in the last 1 second? That's all we get. Like, shouldn't the conclusion of the game be about Beatrice? Sleep peacefully, my beloved Beatrice.
My beloved Weech.
Weecho. Where is she?
Yeah, it's a great scene in a deeply ungreat novel. I'm glad everyone liked it. I like it a lot.
I want to take a second here to point out something that I seeded a bit earlier, which is this, if we take it at face value, is the only time that we see Battler Yushirimiya. Period.
Yeah,
That's true.
And we see that Battler Yushirimiya did repent. We see that he did recognize Beatrice. We see that he did abandon every single other person in his family. Just like in episode 4, he was told he had to kill everyone else in the family in order to
That's right.
figure all this shit out. And he did it. He straight up went, you are the only one worth it on this island, or your life is worth more than everyone else on this island, one way or another, and decided to do his best to take her out. And when she decided that it was too much for her and she could not live her life, he decided, no, you are my life.
he tried to. Yeah, he did. He did.
He died.
Did. He fucking
Battler
did. Yeah.
died. Period.
Yeah, Battler died.
He was the knight on the white horse, but he was late. He was too late.
Remember in the episode 7 Tea Party, we don't know what happens to Battler in that. He kind of just like exits.
Yeah, he just vanishes. You're right.
He literally just vanishes. So like, again, this is like my reading, my headcanon, I guess if you want to call it that, is that this is a direct follow-on to that happening, to all of that stuff. I believe personally that this is like full, actually no embellishments, what happened on October 6th. I set this up in episode 7 cast, and I feel like I'm only half remembering it, but I want to kind of see if I can pull it back here so that we can have a little conversation about it. In episode 7, I asked you to hold on to 2 different ideas, which is like Beatrice's fatalism, feeling like this was always going to happen, that she like deserves to be punished, that she can't do anything to change her fate, and the agency of characters in Umineko. I think that's what it was. But putting those 2 ideas into conversation here, like, how do you take Beatrice like taking her own life? Do you think that she should have? Do you think that she like could she have found something else to do? Like you know, what do you think about all that?
I think that in a story sense, it makes sense. Because at this point, this was talked about during episode, this was in the episode 7 itself. It said something like, if Battler had shown up 1 year earlier or 1 year later, this all could have been avoided. But it just happened to have to be that year, and she'd already completely consumed herself with this idea of like killing everyone or ending it all. Or in a real world setting, obviously I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, it's better to keep living than to die. But in the context of the story, it makes sense as the ending moment of her character for her to do that. It's like her whole character during the entire Umineko is focused around these 2 days. And like, yeah, we get her backstory and stuff, but like pretty much at this point she'd already given herself, she had effectively killed herself before, like long ago.
Yeah.
When she
Yeah, I think that's how she
like
sees it.
locked into doing this.
And she can't live with like a version. She can't live with a world where she survives this, because I mean, I think she sees herself as the culprit after like scheming and setting all this up and getting everything ready and going through all of these different versions of what could happen in her mind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I love that her final moment on screen it's not like a sad face. It's not like her saying something repentant to Battler. It's just her like owning being the evil witch, and then she's just gone. There's no like, sometimes Umineko will have like faces flash on screen for just a second, like as a, like to further the acting of the characters, but that doesn't happen this time. She's just gone, and I think that that's really effective.
Great scene. Save the episode.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was a great scene, and forget the question, is this mystery or fantasy? Is this comedy or tragedy? And it's telling you, no, this is tragedy.
Yeah.
Never forget that this is a tragedy.
Sacrifice herself to the ocean. Cat box forever. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't accept that it's like the real thing that happened, because I can't accept that she would just, after all that, she would just be like, yeah, oops, I did an oopsie, I have to die. It's too, after all that, after everything else about that character. I mean, it's a beautiful scene, it's like a meaningful ending. I think probably that's what happened in like Battler's head or whatever, you know, he's so delirious from whatever happened on the island that like he's perceiving himself to like be rescuing Beatrice and the gold and all that, and then this happens and she's gone, you know, the boat flips or whatever and the illusion breaks and he hallucinates until he drowns. I don't know, that was sort of how I was thinking about it.
Yeah, maybe so. Nothing to say that that's not what happened. That's pretty much the magic ending. Ange, like, it kind of ends on Ange driving away into the sunset or into the sunrise or whatever, not going to Hokkaido.
Yeah, she like gives up her business and then decides to spend the rest of her life focusing on this thing she's supposed to forget.
Yeah.
well, yeah. So the ending is, I'm gonna go and be my own person. Ange Ushiramiya died today. Today, I'm Ange Beatrice, the witch of the future. ... I am going to make sure that this giant corporation that my family lived, I'm just gonna like give that away, but also I'm going to keep taking their money for as long as I live.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to someone who'll make sure it goes on forever with the Ushiramiya name, and I keep getting money for that, and people can easily link me to that, and I'm gonna make Sakutaro's Adventure, which is like a novelization based on, you know, the things of my youth, which were directly related to the Ushiramiya family.
So it ends. And then we get our very wonderful tea party with Lambda and Byrne, who are the most evil girlfriends that they've ever been. We get to learn what everyone's doing. Willard is a landlord for some reason. I'm kind of stuck on that.
And he's got his ass pinched by Leon.
They had to nerf him somehow.
We learn about Cornelia and stuff. It's cute. They say when something else cries, and you point at the screen, and you're like, when something else cries, and then it's over. Nothing
else is ever gonna cry again, though.
For real.
Yeah, Caconia might cry at some point.
No, it won't. He said it won't.
No, I think it's... Well, I don't even remember what his last fucking statement on Caconia was.
What? It was like a month ago. He said, I'm absolutely not comfortable doing this book anymore with the state of the world the way it is, with things still being like war in perpetuity. I'm not going to do this. Maybe there'll be another...
He's threatening the world to make the world a better place.
I read that as something called Caconia 2 will come out eventually, but maybe that was...
He did not say anything remotely in that world.
Well, no, he did not say that. Maybe that was me being too hopeful.
I really just... Please, Ryukishi.
No, don't worry. They came back for a bad sequel anime to Higurashi.
I watched like a 40-minute long video about how this guy was really mad about a fight scene in Sotsu. And like, I have been thinking this entire time about how all the completely unnecessary bullshit fight scenes in this episode of Umineko.
It was all here.
It was all here the whole time!
Started right here. It was in Higurashi too, but that was a less deeply unserious work. Hidden Tea Party. Ange is now Yukari Kotobuki. She's a novelist. She's writing Sakutaro's Great Adventure, which has unseated Harry Potato or what the fuck ever as like the best fantasy children's novel ever. About Sakutaro and his searching for the one fragment, and he says, I'm gonna be king of the lions or king of the beasts. Fucking insane. All the details we get about it are fucking stupid.
Glad that Maria is dead so she can't sue for copyright infringement.
I can't believe that Ange made One Piece and Luffy has defeated Harry Potter?
That's right.
Yeah.
That actually came true recently. One Piece has more sales like universally than Harry Potter ever did.
Good.
How did Ryukishi know?
Oh, predictive.
Yeah, the Kojima of the visual novel space, which is not Kojima. I don't care that he made 2 visual novels. Hachijo Toya is like, hey, let's meet up. He's like, oh my god, it's 2 people. There's Ikuko and there is Toya, who is, for brevity's sake, I will just say the somehow surviving battler Ushiramiya. Except he has suffered brain damage from his time in the ocean. Washing up on shore.
And he's using his grandpa's sprite.
He's using his grandpa's young sprite as his old sprite. Truly, Ryukishi is the master of closing circles.
It's so fucking funny.
It's very funny. Toya suffered brain damage from his time in the ocean and is no longer thinks of himself as Ushiramiya Battler. And even once he began to regain Battler's memories, he couldn't square those with his own sense of self and has lived in dread of like waking up and essentially dying and becoming Battler for the past multiple decades, 40, 50 years, more.
I thought they said it was like 20 or something.
Yeah, I think it's like supposed to be contemporary.
Well, it's after decades, so it's after decades from 1998. Battler would have washed up on shore immediately after the Rakenji.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that would have been in the 80s, so it would have been at least 30 years.
Minimum.
Yeah.
I think it's, at least 40, because it says decades.
I just kind of assumed that the Tea Party took place contemporary to an episode 8 release, so it was like 2011.
Oh, maybe. That's not impossible.
So that would be 30 years, but if it happened now, like that would also make sense. God, he's like 60.
It's later. It's late enough for them to have become adults.
As we know, we become adults at 60.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, that's when that happened. What's everybody think about Toya? I should just say that. What's everybody think about Toya?
I have some minor quibbles, but I think that this is juicy, stupid, pulpy bullshit, but it's the exact same juicy, stupid, pulpy bullshit that I love. So I'm here for it.
I agree. I think it is. Yeah, I like I said earlier. I think I love the narrative device of Toya. I think it's such a great little way to end Umineko.
It is a great way to get around every direct statement that Battler is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But still have a happy ending.
Yeah, it's such a great little like final like red truth ass pull turnaround mystery, right? Like, yeah, here's how this can still be true, and it's still using the rules of Beatrice's game board because of all like the Shannon and Cannon dying. You know, all the statements around them being
Cannon
dead.
is not in the closet.
Cannon is out.
Not anymore.
Battler gets to have the final say over Angie's whole life one last time.
Battler doesn't have anything to do with this.
Angie did this of her own volition.
Well, Battler reaching out to meet her is his choice.
That is not that ain't. I have to draw a little bit of a line in the sand. That ain't Battler.
Yeah, it is not Battler. It's Toya.
I'm kind of on the novel side that Toya is Toya, and like that Battler. I mean, Battler is like trapped inside of him. You know, I think Toya is reaching out for Angie's sake, but also for his own sake, you know, because and he says that he regrets it, whatever. That's the whole text of the novel right there.
Okay, but Angie makes the little room at Fukuin House.
Angie was doing that before
perfect.
Toya reached out.
Yeah, I think we're meant to understand that Angie already that space already existed. That Angie had been paying into Fukuin House for a long time, and
Sure.
and that was already around. I mean, I agree with you in the sense of this is Angie doing the exact thing that Battler was like prodding her into all through this episode of like joyously recapitulating and finding joy by rejoining your family and honoring the thing that was and the happiness that did exist there. Which sucks. Which sucks that is the final thing of Umineko, is that actually to be able to the best thing that you can do is to rejoin. And to not rejoin is bad. Like think about Sayo wants to choose one of herselves to be. Like that's what fucking episode 6 is about. When Battler is punished for his sin, what happens is that he's broken, right? He's separated. He is cut off from the thing that he was, from his own self. To break from something in kind of a final ultimate way, or to be like broken in that way, is the worst thing that you can do in Umineko. To me, it feels like that's the final like period on this novel. Fucking, it's bad to be broken. You should always try to recapitulate, and I think that fucking sucks. I think that sucks hard.
Yeah, the nicest, my nicey's good faith interpretation of the Fukuin House shit, specifically that Angie just poured money into remodeling it to look like the Rokenjima mansion, which is insane, to be clear.
Jesus.
Is like, there's something there about like recontextualizing your childhood trauma, like so it's like less of like a burden and impact on your mind, right? The idea of like having this space exist and then filling it with completely like positive memories that have absolutely zero connection to the Ushiramiyas, because like none of these fucking orphans are Kinzo's illegitimate children. God, I hope not. right?
I hope not.
I know the truth.
In the 2010s, the 2020s?
Yeah,
yes, I really hope so.
Like that she makes an orphanage that isn't directly tied to the Ushiramiyas, but has semblances of things that are in context that only she would understand, or Toya also. Like, I can see the thought process here. I think it kind of sucks. I don't think it's handled very well, but I see where they're attempting.
Yeah, that's exactly where I land with it. Is like, I ultimately, I don't know. I feel the ultimate output of Umineko is that I have to hold two truths inside of myself.
Yes.
And one is that I like can't get so mad at a novel that says like, hey, it is nice when you can move past, you know, the harm that has been done and find joy in a life that can feel broken and beyond repair. Nothing is beyond repair, and you can find joy in the worst circumstances, and you can create your own joy between you and between another person who loves you. You can create a whole universe. And I can get mad at a novel that puts that against, yeah, and to separate yourself from your history is evil, and to be separated by yourself from your history is you know, a metaphorical literary punishment that is visited upon battler. You know, Beatrice is trying to escape being like these broken selves inside of her and wants to choose one person to be. Like, those are like the three main things I think of, but like there is no concept in Umineko, or it's very faint. It's not what Umineko cares about. There is no concept of, I mean, sometimes you just gotta look something in the face and say that it is bad and leave it the fuck behind. Like, there isn't space in Umineko for that, and I really, really feel that absence here most of all.
Yes.
And, like, okay, so you're talking about it. I just want to talk about it real quick. Maria, we got a scene during the goat confrontation where goats are talking about how Rosa is a bad mom, and Maria's like, don't ever deny my love for my mom or whatever. And I'm just like, come on.
I know, that's where her character ends. That's like the last thing she says.
Yeah, it works for me in episode 4 because, like I was saying then, like, her thing is of naivete, you know? Like, it is wonderful that Maria can find happiness in this, but, you know, eventually she will grow old enough that will break, or just eventually, just through the course of life, that will break, you know? And Maria dies before she can reform that. And what's amazing about Ange in that episode is that she's able to experience that point of breakage and then go through this whole journey and re-understand what magic is and what it can be for her as she continues to look for the truth, you know, as she's someone who is both interested in magic, is like, you know, in Umineko world, like literally summoning stakes and Sakutaro, and is also like seeking the like mystery truth of that, you know, like she's doing both at the same time. That's what Umineko is to me. Umineko is being able to find the space for both, find the space between, find the space where both things are true completely at the same time, as like, you know, as paradoxical as that might seem. And this is one, episode 8 chooses one and condemns, not like out and out, like with its voice condemns, but like through its setting, through the way the characters are treated, through the way that things are framed, condemns another. And I think that sucks. I think that really sucks.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck Umineko. I love it. I love Umineko.
I love Umineko. Too bad about this part.
Yeah.
I think something that like bugs me a little bit about Toya is that, as I say in every episode, I am not reading the original release of Umineko. I'm reading Umineko Project, which is a port of the PS3 game to PC. So your first introduction to Toya is a CG where he is in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Oh, fuck me.
So I spent like 20 minutes being like, are they going to mention that? Because like, I think it's cool. Like, because my thought process now is that whatever the fuck happens between Battler leaving Rokujima and Toya washing up on some fucking road is like something that impaired his mobility. And I thought that was cool. And they're like, no, he tried to kill himself. It's like, oh, okay.
He had a fit, I think, is the word that's used in the Witch Hunt translation. It's
okay.
yeah,
The way they had it is that he did something drastic and now he uses a wheelchair. Is how it is in my translation.
well, the fucking ending of this piece of shit fucking novel where they wheel him up to the thing and he's like, wow, oh, Beatrice is alive, and I see in the faces of these children, I see Kinzo and Nanjo and Goda or whatever.
Yeah, and then I think he gets out of his wheelchair too. It's like really strange.
And they take him out of his fucking wheelchair. Are you kidding me?
They don't. It's he fucking hallucination battler. It turns into like, I don't know, when fucking Captain America de-ages or whatever in that flashback. I don't know what. I didn't watch the movie.
There's something metaphorical happening there.
Yeah, and it's bizarre, but it's fucking bizarre.
I think Battler steps out of Toya.
Yeah, and like that's nice, but why is that the imagery that they chose to use for this? That's actually like legitimately my main issue with Toya is handling his mobility aid like that. It's really strange.
Yeah, totally. I feel like what happened in that scene, I at least like I have a reading of it that I feel pretty satisfied with. But yeah, the fact that the metaphor for that of like Battler being released in that scene to go to the Golden Land and finally like rest and all of that stuff, and Toya being able to be his own guy. The fact that the way that is couched is Beatrice says, get out of that silly wheelchair, and Battler just stands up from it. It's so stupid and fucked. Unbelievable that's how Umine... That's exactly what I was fucking talking about.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's just the worst. It's
I would like to take a moment to complain differently about that.
Uh-huh.
So a guy comes up to you and he says, hey, you used to know me a long time ago, but I'm not me anymore, and I'm terrified every single day that the me that I used to be will take over and I will functionally die. I'm so scared of that. That's why I'm just spending this one day with you. I'm so scared about losing myself entirely if I immerse myself too much in the memories of this person who's not me. And Ange goes, great. Come to a perfect recreation of your house, and we are going to fucking obliterate you.
We are going to re-traumatize you.
That's it. That's Umineko. What you need to do...
That's what I was saying I had a problem with, yeah.
Yeah, what you need to do is you need to go back and you need to allow yourself to rejoin with it, and then you can move on. Just whatever.
This is Angie getting revenge on Battler for making her go through episode 8.
And I like Umineko.
Yeah, I love Umineko. It's peak.
I like Umineko.
And you know what? In the final instance, I like Umineko. I even, like, through gritted teeth, you know, having, like, talked it out through gritted teeth at this point, but, like, what episode 8 is going for, I appreciate it. I don't think it really gets there, but, like, I appreciate what it's kind of trying to do. I teared up a couple times here and there. Yeah, totally. But fuck me. What a way for it all to end.
Like many masterful works of fiction that are extremely long, it stumbled at the ending.
Yeah, I will say, to have our common reference point, I like the ending of this a whole lot more than I like the ending of Homestuck.
I didn't even finish Homestuck.
There you go.
I got to, I think, Mina showing up.
I can't believe how many times we brought up Homestuck.
It's really a deeply salient point that I wish I knew more about the context of at least Umineko and maybe even Homestuck, so I could draw more lines between them.
I got to Mina showing up, and I saw my future of there going to be 12 more trolls being added to Homestuck, and I dropped it that moment.
You were so right for that.
I was so lucky. I missed all the Dancestors. I literally skipped right before Homestuck hit its worst.
The Dancestors is the goats eating the island in Homestuck.
Yes.
I am not joking. That's exactly what it is.
See, the thing is also that I started attending an art school when the Dancestors were introduced, and it was the peak of Homestuck, as many people who are reading it serially know, is that era of it. And I had to deal with people cosplaying Homestuck in my fucking college cafeteria. I just, like, fucking peripherally know what happens in that, because people would just tell me.
I remember all that. See, the difference is I worked very hard to stay current on Homestuck through art school. Just like I tried to reread Umineko a couple times in college, and it never stuck. It was only back in 2020, you know, deep in the bowels of the pandemic. Just like we kind of still are, that I finally went through it and read it all. And now here we all are. having read it all.
I can't believe you convinced me to do this.
I'm sorry is all I can say.
I was literally reading Umineko already until we joined the podcast, so...
You literally were, yeah. I'm glad it worked out like that.
I am glad that you, our green Power Ranger, were able to join.
You reblogged one gif of Beatrice showing up in flames or butterflies or whatever, and I was like, who's that cool lady? And you were like, get in on this.
You have to get in on this. Does anyone, we'll have like again, we have several podcasts to talk about this in a little more detail. Does anyone have any thoughts or feelings on, final thoughts on episode 8, I guess, but more specifically just about like Umineko as like a whole work that you've read now?
Umineko.
I think it's neat.
I loved Umineko. I understand and I agree with a lot of the gripes we have for episode 8, but at the end of the day, it completely changed the way I think about media.
Yeah.
In a way that like very few things ever have, because it like actively engaged that question, and that's the whole point of it.
How would you say it has changed? What changed for you?
Let's see. As an example, my boyfriend wanted me to play Super Danganronpa 2 for the first time.
Oh my god.
Oh, Christ.
And I remember playing Danganronpa 1, and while I engaged with the mystery enough to solve the answers as they came up, but like when I was playing Super Danganronpa 2, I would spend a lot more time actually kind of like trying to consume what was being said to me so I could solve the mysteries more ahead of time.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't say that Super Danganronpa 2 does a super great job of making all of the mysteries solvable ahead of time, but I at least still felt that I was taking the mystery in a different way.
You were a more engaged reader. You know, you were more active in the way of not just trying to get the immediate answer right in front of you or for the episode, but like thinking about it in a broader way. Is that fair to say, do you think?
Yes, I was definitely that. I think that's definitely a fair way to put it. And I think that's what this, and not just Umineko, but I think the experience of reading Umineko in a group is what brought that out of me. Because I could see myself pre-Umineko, if I just read it on my own, just kind of gliding through the text and not really taking my time with it. But you kind of like forcing us to do it was really good for me, I think.
It's this format of the show, and that's what the show is like for, you know? Like, it's kind of dual purposes. Is one, I fucking had to talk about Umineko with some people, and two, like, you know, I wanted to make like a good, like high quality, generally, not to toot my own horn, our own horn, but, you know, a good podcast that other people could listen to and get that kind of experience, you know? I didn't necessarily have this when I was reading it. I kind of did, especially when I was younger and it was like still coming out at the time. I think it's so critical to reading Umineko as being able to go to people and think about theories and think about what's going on, and not just in like the mystery sense, but like, I think it's wonderful that Umineko is a series that asks you to be a more engaged reader, and that people enter into Umineko, and not all of them, but generally, I mean, my experience was, at least reading this as a high schooler, was that I even though I didn't finish Umineko, I came out of it more curious about like the ways that stories worked, and reading attentively and reading for not just like the thing that's being said, but for, you know, the subtext and like the themes and you know, thinking about a story as more than just a thing that's like happening in front of me, but something that I'm engaged in, as something that works on me and is talking to me specifically and is communicating something. I like the ways that Umineko really fronts that, and I think even if episode 8 is kind of a wash, I think that most of it is like really good at engaging the reader and feeling like it's speaking to you directly and asking you to do things and not reprimanding you for not doing them. You know, it says, hey, here are ways that you can engage with this text. Here's things that you can think about. Here are a set of characters that have these kinds of interactions. Can you think more deeply about them? What else is going on? What else is going on underneath all of that? And I think that's ultimately like one of the things, like one of the great values that Umineko has as a work is that, you know, if Umineko, if a book is a little machine, is a little tool that you can use to think in different ways, Umineko is one I think that you can use to like better just like critical reading apparatus in general, and I think that's really wonderful.
I had kind of the opposite experience, Izzy, where I approach every single piece of media that I experience, be it visual novel, game, movie, TV show, whatever, with the exact level of subtext seeking and mystery solving that Umineko demands of you. So I found this to be a deeply fulfilling novel to read because it actually wants you to fucking do that.
There's something underneath it too. There's the fucking the greatest thing that a fucking work of fiction can have at the center of it is a secret trans woman. And goddamn it, Umineko has one of the best ones ever.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it is. It's great for a first timer and for someone who already reads this way.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, totally.
It was. I felt like I was being spoiled. Like, I felt like I could ask questions of a text and expect them to have a sane answer because the guy writing it is competent. Does not happen very often.
So my experience is parallel but not identical to Caelum's, where I came in here ready to go swinging at mystery every single second, and Anna, of all people, basically beat me to death over the course of the first 3 episodes so that I would be able to see the heart of the story. I would be a much more cynical person in general if it were not for Annabelle Barsky coming in with a haymaker every time I get too stupid.
Thank you.
And I'm very grateful for that, Anna. Thank you.
I wouldn't know anything about mysteries without you, Matt. So, I owe it to you too.
I am a mystery no one will ever solve. That is fine.
Well, there we go. That's the full range of human experience.
That's true. Yeah, mystery, fantasy,
We did it.
beginner, old timer. Yeah, I love this stupid book series. Even episode 8, I have to admit that I do love just a little bit. Not as much as my beautiful child episode 4, but I do love episode 8. I do have favorites.
It's no episode 7.
Episode 7, yeah. Great stuff. Well, I mean, I guess if no one else has to say anything to say, I guess that's an episode. That's Umineko, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I can say it was still a lift even with listeners, but without listeners, I'm not sure that we would have gotten there. I can't speak for my co-host, but I genuinely did not really anticipate or really care all that much if anyone listened to it. This was something I put together and called everyone here because I needed to make this happen inside of myself, so that could be met by people who are actually listening and interested and are interested in engaging with Umineko on this level and listening to a bunch of mostly transgender fuckers pick their way through it is deeply gratifying, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you out there in Radioland. Thank you very much.
Thanks, listeners.
Thank you, listeners.
I have no idea if anybody listens to this besides me, but I have so much fun being here. Sometimes I just sit back and listen to you guys, and I'm like, man, this is a great podcast. Glad to be listening to
Sometimes
it.
I have problems of like zoning out because I keep thinking that I'm just listening to a podcast. I'm like, no, I'm in it. I'm in this one.
You are listening to a podcast. You're in one.
Oh, I'm glad other people feel that
We
way.
have at least a dozen fans, but
We have dozens.
Do?
yeah.
Our stream got up to
That's the
like
entirety of the Umineko fan base.
our stream. I mean, this is it ain't Derma numbers or whatever, but we got up to like over 20 people on one of our streams. Like there were people
Holy
tuning
shit.
in. Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy, right? There's some real ass people. I mean, speaking nothing of the download numbers, I haven't looked at those in a while, but people really do actually listen to this show. Not all of them write in. You're welcome to write in. GoldenTruthPod at gmail.com at Umineko.
Maybe we read some of the fucking fan mail on one of these episodes. People have been sending this, and this whole time you've been like, yeah, we're not reading any of that on the stream.
Yeah,
actually.
like, what's
we
left?
Should,
What can they
fucking
spoil
thank
us
our
for?
fucking fans. We aren't shit without them,
This is exactly what I'm gonna say. So if you have ever sent in fan mail in the past, thank you very much. It is still there in the inbox. I don't think I've deleted anything. If you've listened this far and you just have any kind of thought at all, a thought about the podcast, a thought about Umineko, you deeply disagree with us on something, genuinely, please send us an email, goldentruthspod at gmail.com. And I would genuinely really love to make a segment on one of these wrap-up podcasts, us just going through the emails and taking a look at them and and answering some questions or just getting a little bit of on-pod interaction, because we had some of that in the Twitch stream, but it's just a different thing to be sent a letter by someone who listens to your stuff and who you make stuff for.
I hope
So,
episode 8's biggest
please.
warrior contacts us and tells us the secret. That makes this episode good.
Can you imagine? Yeah, well, we will be grateful for your emails no matter what. No matter how wrong you are, we will love you for sending in an email. You can find us...
Oh, sorry. This is a weird moment. I have to disappear. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Bye.
That's what it was like streaming with that.
Thanks, Matt. Battler disappearing once and for all.
You can find us at Golden Truths Pod on Twitter. Golden Truths -pod. That's the little signal, little character hyphen. Golden Truths -pod. .tumblr.com. Golden Truths, an Umineko podcast on YouTube, where this podcast and all other podcasts and exclusive content are posted. You can email us, of course, at goldentruthspod@gmail.com, and you can find links to the podcast and pretty much everywhere else we're at goldentruths.net. We do plugs here, right? That's what we do?
Plugs.
Yeah, we do plugs.
Yeah, we do plugs. I remember how this podcast ends. Where can people find you, Caelum?
Tumblr, I guess. I'm laggy on Tumblr. That's LAGY. Twitter locked me out of my account like 6 months ago or something. So
yeah, you used to live tweet over there your Umineko stuff.
Yeah, so I think my last post ever is just updating my media thread to say I finished Umineko.
I've completed an episode of Umineko no Naku Koro Ni. Where can people find you, Izzy?
I'm Izzy Time Stream on Tumblr, and that's pretty much it. I don't really stream anymore. I know that y'all have been hearing me plug it every time, but it's not really for me. So just hit me up on izzytimestream.tumblr.com.
Yeah, hang out.
Matt.
Yeah, someone have Matt's current @. I remember he changed it somewhat recently.
It's Paper Paluka, I think now.
Paper Palooka.
I'm looking at it. PAPERPALOOKA. That's on Tumblr and Twitter, by the look. And you can't find me nowhere.
Yeah, Anna is a ghost in the cat.
Yeah, living her best life.
Anna's out in the golden land, looking at golden roses and doing whatever they do in there. You can find me. What's my thing? At Ahonesan, AHONEESAN. I kind of had a little Tumblr bloop. That's why our Tumblr URL is different now. You can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter at Kebs, KEBBBBS. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. The next time we're back here, well, golly, we've got a whole bunch of stuff lined up. I should have said all of this stuff earlier. The next time you hear us will be a bonus episode. I'm not entirely sure which, but you can look out for it. We're not going anywhere yet. There's still just a tiny bit of Umineko left to push us over the finish line, including a fighting game, a lot of bonus material, and a stage show. So we'll have something for all of that. Don't you worry about it. Until then, I dedicate this podcast to my beloved witch, Beatrice.
You can find me at Paper Palooka. Oh, Beatrice.
Thanks for posting that like clown video. I love that clown video.
Isn't it so good, Clown Town? I literally watch that shit like 3 times a day. I love that so much. It's just cute.
What
and
is
well done.
Clown Town?
I'm going to send
think I
Clown
missed
Town.
that.
We'll put it in the show notes. This is obviously relevant and crucial to episode 8.
It is.
Okay, I've officially started my recording. I'm pretty sure that these are the levels I'm gonna go with. We're just gonna roll with it.
That's right.
That's right, Beatrice. We've got a lot of crazy things in store for you today. I can't wait to see what you've been cooking for everyone today. Lucifer before episode 3.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, I'm
Clown
gonna
Town.
watch Clown Town again.
You don't have. It's like 4 minutes. You
This
can
is
watch
3.5
half of it.
minutes long. I'm not watching it.
That's 3.5 minutes.
Oh my
long.
god! You read Umineko!
You read Umineko last night. Yeah.
We are 15 minutes past our recording time for Umineko. I want to get fucking started. I want to watch Clown
I'm
Town.
ready. Well, first of all,
Okay,
you're wrong.
I need to
Second of all,
go-
I'm also ready.
Go
I
wet
need to
your
go
cat.
wet my cat.
Whoa.
Oh my.
And I've been recording this whole time, so now you get to hear it.
That's not going in the after episode bonus stuff.
No, it has to.
Dolphin, say something for the mic. Yeah?
All right. If everybody's ready, Freddy, I'll
I need
I'll
to
get
eat one
into
more
it.
mozzarella stick and then I'm good.
Well,
You gotta
that's
have a certain
understandable.
number of mozzarella sticks before recording.
Oh, it's the last one. Could you imagine if I'm sitting here for 3 hours and this mozzarella stick just becomes like, it develops a complex with the fact that it's the only one left alive?
It gets a survivor.
It might
survivor's
write a
guilt.
bunch of books.
I know that there are only 5 mozzarella sticks in my order. Yet my server said that I received 6. Where is the missing mozzarella stick X?
Probably 25 minutes on this recording already. We haven't started.
Tiny Maria.
I know. Look, that's why
Well,
I'm.
Someone's eating a cheese stick about it right now. Listen, we all are trying to find the guy who did this, okay?
Look, I'm just trying to watch Clown Town again over here, and you all are talking about some fucking video game.
It's true.
I
We've had
literally
space to watch
watched it, like,
Clown Town
frame
a
by
few
frame.
times over.
Shit.
Izzy, do you want to take that break now, if you want?
Yeah, let's take the break now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to post the episode titles that I've pulled from all of you guys so far.
Oh, is
Oh
that
my
what you've
God.
been typing?
I was
Yeah.
wondering. Well, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for showing Restraint here and everywhere in this episode.
It's a little wordy, but it's very good. Thank you for the song. Thank you for being born, but instead it pops up. Thank you for showing restraint.
I know that took a lot of restraint. Thank you for not.
I'm gonna go get more coffee. I'll be right back. So, I did not play Umineko with the original sprites, as we all know. Did Toya, like, get sprites? And if he did, is he just reusing Kinzo's sprites?
I can show you.
Yes, please show
right
me.
now. I can show you Toya's only sprite.
He looks so bad. I would do anything for him.
I can't. Well, I kind of fucking hate this guy. That's okay. He's going through it.
I wish that they had given him like some laugh lines or like anything to show that
Yeah,
he's
he's-
apart from
anything,
fucking
This
not
is
just
Battler
fucking-
at 45 years old or whatever.
It's that one character from fucking Kakegurui. I'm sure we all have seen and
Why
can
would you
relate
think-
and know this.
What are you talking about?
We all have watched that show and know that show, so this is normal and everyone
We're
knows
all
it.
trying
First
to
of all.
find the girl that watched the sex gambling anime.
Don't pull that on me after all this time. How do we feel about the fact that housewives in Japan were calling Ryukishi an egg, huh? Isn't that pretty fucking cool?
That's so good.
It's not just my crazy ass. It's real.
As
It's
far
real.
back as like episode 5 of Higurashi, it's fucking crazy. At least
This is
someone
how
can
I win.
sense it.
I remain.
I love that as a group, we all agree unanimously Natsui's the best parent. Natsui, who has a body count of minimum
I
2.
bet
Like, there's
Rudolph-
no
Of
disagreement. We're all
one. Of one.
2.
Of zero.
2.
Of zero. She lived.
Oh, wait, no, you're
The
right.
fucking servant?
Who?
Uh-huh.
True Nazi stan. What servant?